I think we're on. This new music is messing me up, man. Like, this intro music is not what I'm used to. Welcome to Gwynn and Chris. Tony Gwynn Jr., Matt Skraby, Chris Ello out. We're going to get right to it, I believe. Our Friar Friday guest says that music is quite loud. Thank you very much. We have Mike Shildt joining us here within seconds. The manager. All right. Well, Mike Shildt is our guest here on this Friar Friday. The manager's report with Mike Shildt is brought to you by San Diego County Credit Union. It's not big banking. It's better. Mike, it was a long night last night. Obviously, the Padres weren't able to get the victory, and then they had to hop on the plane, fly here to Arizona, where they have three pretty important games remaining. On a night like this, where travel is rough, what goes into putting a lineup together today as you try to get guys prepared for the postseason, but also these three games you have in front? Mike, I want to take you back to the beginning of this season as you guys begin this journey. You were pretty adamant about locking in on some of the smaller things, and I remember at a point during the season when a lot of us on the outside were talking about it being a roller coaster, and you kind of pushed back against that. What gave you the confidence, even as this team was teetering back and forth between 500, that you knew that these guys would eventually get to the point that they're at now?
Great question. I'm glad you asked it. We'd like to snap our fingers and accelerate a lot of processes that need to be put into place and create some clarity and allow some learning curve with some players. I mean, if you look back at the off season, there was a lot of question marks. No particular order. You slash the payroll, $90 million. We lose over 600 quality innings, including the Cy Young guy and Blake, and a lockdown closer in Josh, and of course Waka and Lugo, and Nick Martinez and Luis Garcia, guys like that, and you lose a generational talent in Juan Soto. We are really confident. We had a great core, obviously, with Manny and Toddy and Bogey and Crony and you and that entire group. But plus you got a new manager. You got a new, you got a fair amount of new staff members, including Victor Rodriguez, our hitting coach, and people that were on the staff last year that were in different spots, a couple. So, and then you bring in new guys that have been great. Clearly, Michael King and all the group from the Yankees, Higgy and Vasquez Brito have contributed. Of course, we trade for Cease and Arise. Everybody knows kind of the story, but what I'm ultimately getting at, trying to paint the picture to a long answer to the question is, there's a lot of variables.
Yeah.
There's a lot of newness taking place, and like I said, I wish we could just snap our fingers and go, yeah, it's going to be fine. But the thing that I had confidence in during all of that, so expecting some kind of learning curve, or and quite candidly, being able to stay at a place where we remain competitive with Toddy being out, for a long period of time. Bogey being out for over 2 months, both of them over 2 months. Joe
Yeah.
and Darvish being out over 2 months apiece. I feel Manny coming back off of surgery. Out of the core six group of guys, really only Crony was a guy that was able to be consistent and be healthy. So us holding it together with a rookie in the outfield that never played outfield before has clearly rewarded it and been great in Jackson. So us being able to keep it right there, I thought was pretty darn good. And some ups and downs were I just knew were going to take place. I mean, I think anybody that's been around the game, that's at least for me, would be naive to think otherwise. But really, it was just that day-to-day commitment from the group of guys, which what a special group, as we all know. The staff, we do our part, but just that dedication to continual improvement and continue to work together to put together what we know is how to play the game of baseball and how to compete every day, give us our best chance of winning.
We're talking to Padres manager Mike Shildt here on 97.3 The Fan. You just mentioned Yu Darvish being back, and with Yu Darvish being back, you have some pretty good options in terms of the possible 3-game wildcard series rotation. And I know you don't want to look ahead too much, but do you anticipate whoever does not make that wildcard rotation will be available from the bullpen?
I think we're a little early on the finalizing the roster. I think it's possible for sure. It's a fair question, but I don't have anything definitive for you right now.
Okay.
Mike Shildt joins us here on Gwynn and Chris. And Mike, let's talk a little bit about Jackson. You get this young kid, and I think you kind of knew. You kind of were able to see him prior to this year and how he conducted himself. And I remember a conversation with you last year talking about how advanced in terms of mentally he was with the game. So you get this new piece, and you run him out there, and he's doing well. How much did you have to resist moving him up too quickly and giving him too much too fast, where it could have maybe been a detriment to him?
Another great question. Yeah, I got a real blessing to get to know Jackson the last couple of years through instructional leagues and big league camp, and then going to watch him play a little bit in the minor leagues. And you're really just getting to know him, and the talent's the talent. Clearly, it's pretty special, but it's the makeup, it's the mindset, it's the mental acumen to play the game. So we knew we were on having a really good kind of player. Him making that move to center field as easy as he made it is beyond impressive. For me, I'm biased a little bit, but I don't think it's really a question that he's rookie of the year. But then ultimately, answer your question, Tony, is me and Victor talked about it a fair amount. The good news is we've had a lengthy lineup. We had guys for a period of time. It didn't really, obviously at the beginning of the season, it made sense to hit him down the lineup and just let him get his at-bats and let him get his feet under it. And he started performing more. We did move him up a little bit, got him up just a hair and in that 6 range, and again had conversations with Vic about it, and we just felt like, we got other guys that are carrying the mail that have been doing this, and he's in a good spot. He's performing. He's doing what he needs to be doing, and then he kept doing it, and so looked up over in San Francisco, a couple of weeks ago, and said, this kid. He's been able to pretty much handle everything we put in front of him. So I think we put it in front of him appropriately. And then we slid him up to the 5th spot, and he's done what he's done. He's been able to take good at-bats and perform.
We're talking to Padres manager Mike Shildt here, 97.3 The Fan. And what is the status of Ha-Seong Kim and when he could potentially rejoin the team? Yeah,
you know what? I wish he had really super positive news. He's just hadn't been able to be able to get over that hump with his throwing. The hitting's not a problem. That part's good, but him being able to consistently throw with any aggressive, anything behind it, and intensity is just hadn't happened. So, we're still weighing what's taking place. But right now he's not in a spot where we can count on him in the very near future.
Mike, is there a point where it's too late and that window closes?
There is,
Okay.
Steve. We may be getting there, and we'll know something here, sooner than later.
Last one before we let you get out of here. I got to ask you. You mentioned Victor Rodriguez. You guys is the Padres hitting coach. Um, this offense is it has multi facets to it. Did was this the plan all along to have an offense that can beat you in multiple ways, or did this kind of come about as everybody kind of found their footing and it's kind of blossomed into this?
Combination, really. I've known Victor a long time. We're very like-minded in how we see the game, how we want to play the game and compete offensively. We both have always been believers in a very holistic offense, which to me makes common sense. We've had conversations to you about it. There's a lot of different ways to compete in this game, and having as many tools in your toolbox to be able to do it because it's so situational based, and having the guys that can handle the bat. But our game's changed, and you don't have as many guys handle the bat. So the second part of that's really been the biggest part, because we can have all the philosophy we want, and we can, think about how we want to compete and play the game. But if you don't have players that can execute that, it's just it's a lofty ideal that doesn't come to fruition. But and I give AJ credit for this, and all our players. I mean, look, you go down the line, but AJ bringing a Rise in, Solano in, Peralta in, these are professional hitters that play the game, have bat control. But also give credit to, Manny Profar has led the way for sure. Manny's been tremendous. We've all seen him move runners, seen him hit the ball the other way. Toddy, walk off hit the other day in the right center. It's not always had to hit the ball the other way, as you know, but if the game calls for it, that's what you do. And the little things can lead to big things, and we've had some big things happen for sure as well. So, it's been a combination between, a belief system that we wanted to create, and Victor's done a great job of creating a clear identity with the group, and then the guys buying into it and having the ability to execute it.
Well, it's been a lot of fun to watch this year. 3 games remaining. Division still, a chance to be able to capture it. You need some help, but you have the city of San Diego behind you. Mike, appreciate you coming on here this morning after the long night, and good luck tonight.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Mike Shildt, the manager's report with Mike Shildt, is brought to you by San Diego County Credit Union. It's not big banking, it's better. Mike Shildt once again on Gwynn and Chris. All right, let's get to break. Skraby and I will talk a little bit about what we just talked about with Mike Shildt on the other side. More Gwynn and Chris.
Spiro's Mediterranean cuisine.
that? Back on air, 2:19. It's very rare we get back on air like on time. Usually we have taken the first segment long, but we actually got out on time. And we also started the show out with a bang.
Yeah.
Manager Mike Shildt jumped on with us after the long travel. Let me tell you, y'all, we landed at, I think, 2 a.m., 2:10.
You landed at 2 a.m.
Landed at 2:10.
Wow. Okay.
And then drove on over here. I mean, maybe it was like, no, we probably landed at like 1:55, 1:50. We were here by like 2:20.
Oh, that's not so
hotel.
bad. I mean, it is bad. It is bad. It is bad. But a
That's not bad.
20-minute airport drive is not too bad.
Yeah, no. That's we stay relatively close to the airport, so by the time I got bags in the bed, like showered because I can't travel. and
Oh,
not
you're
take
one
a
of
shower.
those guys.
Heck no, I can't get in the bed and like, nah, I can't do it. Can't do it. So I had to shower, out of the shower, in the bed by 3:30.
Oh gosh. Well, I got to ask about these trips because I guess after the game, the players have to eat, right? Are they eating in the clubhouse? They eating on the plane?
No. So after every game there's spread. Now you can choose not to eat the spread and gamble on what's going to be on the plane, but I don't suggest that's the exact move to go with. But yeah, here's the tough part. In September, when it's West Coast travel, you get a lot of these, late games, regardless of whether it's a getaway day or not, because they figure you're not going far, right? You're going L.A. to Arizona, San Diego to L.A., and so you get these late travel days, and so occasionally you get one like yesterday where the Dodgers are starting at 7:10, which is an old school thing. Game wasn't that long. I think it was 2:35
No,
or
but
something like that.
but let me ask you this too, because we didn't really get into this on the show, but I thought about it on the drive home last night. Like, why wasn't that game played earlier? It seems like whenever the Padres have a third game that's not a day game, it's usually like a 3:40 or 5:40 because the Dodgers had to leave too. It makes no sense to me.
It was
this
worse
game.
for them
Yeah.
because they had to go farther. They had to go to Colorado.
Do you know why that game was played at 7:10?
I have no idea.
All right.
No idea.
Well-
So here's what yesterday was Thursday, correct?
Yes.
I mean, the obvious answer is it's a September game against the Padres, a weekday. You're going to draw more people at 1:10, or are you going to draw more people at 7:10?
Well, with the Dodgers Stadium, you never know, Tony.
I mean,
you never know who's going to
just think
show
about.
up.
See, you're thinking about it from a single man's perspective. But
It's true.
For married man with kids,
It's
you got kids
7:10,
that are
obviously.
Kids are going to school you're not out of school at 1:10 most of the time, or all the time. So
you're telling me that they're making decisions based upon money
crazy concept, I
and
know.
not based
I know.
upon player safety and health. Okay.
No, crazy concept. I know.
Crazy concept.
Crazy concept. But that's probably what they're doing. That's my guess.
That's
Don't know
a
to be
that's
fact.
a pretty good
That's my
guess.
guess. But we just we did have Mike Shildt on, and I think probably the most newsworthy thing he said had to do with Ha-Seong Kim, and we have that sound for you right now.
What is the status of Ha-Seong Kim and when he could potentially rejoin the team?
Yeah, you know what? I wish you had really super positive news. He just hadn't been able to be able to get over that hump with his throwing. The hitting's not a problem. That part's good, but him being able to consistently throw with any aggressive, anything behind it, and intensity just hadn't happened. So, we're still weighing what's taking place, but right now he's not in a spot where we can count on him in the very near future.
Mike, is there a point where it's too late and that window closes?
There is,
Okay.
Steve. We may be getting there, and we'll know something here, sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean that's as clear cut of an answer as we got from him. Basically,
it was.
He hasn't been able to get over the hump of throwing, and on top of that, there is a time frame where it's getting too late, and then we might be on top of that now. And you could almost hear it in his voice as he was answering that question. Like, yeah, it doesn't sound too good. So, and at this point, I can't be honest when I ask you this.
Yeah.
As have the Padres really like slipped since he's been gone?
No.
I
No,
don't
they
think so
haven't.
either.
I think that it was possibly causing more headaches to figure out where to put him, and maybe that's just because I was debating it all day yesterday, but I think that it makes a lot of the decisions easier to know whether or not he's going to return at all in the postseason, which again, to me it sounds like he's probably not, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Again, I said from the very beginning that once they moved Bogarts over there, they weren't doing that for a little bit of time. That they felt like if they're gonna move him, they're gonna move him, move him
Yeah.
for the rest of the season. That's what I said when it happened,
Yeah.
and I think that's gonna remain true. We'll see though.
I mean, we were talking about this yesterday, and they were talking about on the round table. Like, I know you're not going to put a guy on a roster if he's injured, obviously. But number two, he's a really good clubhouse guy. You saw Manny FaceTiming him during the celebration to share that with him. Like, is there anything to his kind of presence and attitude that could help the team?
He can still be around and not be on the roster.
Okay, so that he can be. Okay, all right.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that is important.
There's dudes sitting in that dugout all the time that ain't on the roster, postseason roster, that are watching games. It happens every year. So,
right.
Yeah, no, he can be around. You know, I don't think, if he can't play, I don't know. He's a great clubhouse guy, but they got a lot of great clubhouse guys.
They do.
I don't know that it's making a difference in terms of that. But, that was certainly newsworthy hearing that from Mike today. Padres Diamondbacks, 6:40 matchup. Back to some regular starting times. It's crazy. 7:10 used to be like, I remember when I didn't want it to go to 6:40. Now I'm like, love it at 6:40.
Yeah, I know.
Padres, here's the playoff situation. Yu Darvish, Merrill Kelly. The Padres, the only one of those teams that have clinched a playoff spot. And of those, I'm thinking we're talking Diamondbacks, Braves, and Mets. Would eliminate the Diamondbacks from contention from the top wild card spot. Meaning, with a win today, the Diamondbacks can no longer catch the Padres at the tippity top.
Yeah.
With an accompanying Mets loss in Milwaukee, the Padres would clinch the top spot. Period.
So basically, for them to come home, the Padres need to beat the Diamondbacks tonight and have the Mets lose tonight, and they would have a home series locked in.
That's the only way it can happen tonight.
Yes.
A win tonight, a Mets loss. Now, they can just win tonight and tomorrow and not really care what the Mets do, and they can clinch it as well. But a win tonight, Mets loss tonight, Padres clinch the top spot. And if that happens, I bet you some guys get some rest unless they're searching. They're hunting some numbers. Manny's hunting 30, so I don't think Manny's coming out to that. At the very least, gets done, and to this top spot gets done. That's my guess.
You know what? When we talked to Manny last week, and this is kind of random, but he talked about how he's never hit 40 home runs in his career. And I just never really, I guess, realized that. And it proved to me really how hard it is to hit that many home runs. If Manny Machado's never reached a 40 home run point in his career, then that shows me how difficult it is. And why Shohei Ohtani hitting 50 or more is that much more impressive
The creme
than
de la
Ronald
creme
Acuna.
in homers, the creme de la creme is 50. Like, you get to that number, you are in a class, a small class, right?
Yeah.
And so 40's a lot too, though. But as Manny said in that interview, he didn't think he was going to get to 30. But here we are, one homer away. I thought he clicked it last night, but he caught it off the end a little bit in that Dodger game. But anyway, Padres win tonight. Mets lose tonight. Padres take the top spot. They will have home field advantage for the wild card round. Now, that in terms of who that matchup would be against, that's still to be determined.
Yeah.
Because the Diamondbacks are third now, huh?
Yes, they have not played well down the stretch here.
No, they have not played well. There's another term that people would
You
use
wanted
for
to
sports that I
say.
really wanted to use, but obviously we're on radio, so can't do that.
Good
All
job.
right, let's step away. Let's get to break. Joe Musgrove, phenomenal until the 2-run shot, and I would still say he threw the ball extremely well. But we saw some things that the Padres are uncharacteristic, or some uncharacteristic mistakes from the Padres last night that led to that big inning for the Dodgers. Maybe a little conceding at the from the Padres end, that the division may be out of touch. We'll talk a little bit about that on the other side. More Gwynn and Chris. 2:35 on the clock. Tony Gwynn Jr., Matthew Skraby. Still getting used to some of these new songs coming in. Like, I didn't recognize that one either. But
Trying to change it up a little bit, Tony.
Yeah, no, I'm not mad at it. I just, still getting used to it. That's why it took me a little bit to figure out we were actually back. At
You're
that
not
time.
Pavlov's dog anymore, where you hear a certain song and you're like, "Oh, it's time to go."
Yeah, no, I'm not. You're reprogramming me as we speak. Real quick, I might have that brought to my attention. I might have said that the Padres division champs. I was talking really about the top wild card spot. I misspoken when I was talking to Mike, and I'm sure he knew that. That's why he didn't correct me on it. Nonetheless, the Padres division champs obviously done their top wild card spot, though, very much alive in their own hands. In terms of the division, I mean, Jackson talked a little bit about it after the game yesterday, and clearly, it was something they had in mind. I think we heard that after they clinched the playoff spot on Tuesday. It was pretty clear in listening to them that they, wanted to then set their sights on winning that division. That obviously is now off the table, and now you set your sights on getting home field advantage for the folks in San Diego. And I think it's pretty important for them. I mean, first of all, it would be bad practice to not end up having that happen, because that would mean they're not playing well going into the playoffs, right? I mean, you've had lost. I would assume, in order for them to get caught, they would most likely have to get swept here in Arizona. I don't know what the mathematics are on this, but I mean, how many games are up? 2.5?
Let me just confirm
3.5?
I'm confirming because I don't want to give out the wrong information when we're so close to the end of the season. But the Padres are
They're
3
3
games
out.
up.
3 games up.
Yeah.
So, they basically would have to get swept, and either the Mets or Arizona, who are the only teams that can catch them, I believe, at this point.
And the Braves, possibly.
And the Braves.
Well, they can't.
Possibly.
I'm so confused with this Monday doubleheader. And
so it depends. I mean, I think the Braves, if they lose one, if any of them lose one, they can't catch them. So, I mean, the Padres need 2 victories. So, ultimately, that's what will seal it. But either way, what I'm trying to say is it would be bad practice them losing 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 3 going into the playoffs, and not securing that spot, and then having to travel to whatever said place. So, it's Padres should lock this up. I have full confidence that they will.
Is there any sort? And I think your answer is going to be no. And there's no doubt, I don't think, in their mind, because they know that they're a good team. But is there any sort
doubt.
of something in the back of their head thinking we can't mess this up?
No. This. Haven't been around this group all year. They're confident.
They are, yeah.
They don't think in the same way that we think. I think the more interesting story is if the Phillies can catch the Dodgers. The Phillies are playing the Nationals. The Dodgers are playing the Rockies. Now, we know, having gone up to Colorado, how things can go there.
Yeah.
I think Philly is they didn't play yesterday, so they're probably a game back from the top spot, because that, changes it. Just looking, doing what I don't normally do. I'm going to look ahead here. Like, let's say the Padres win that series, that wild card series. That determines whether the Padres are getting on a bus to just go up to L.A. or they're getting on a plane to go to Philly.
I don't want to go to Philly. I don't want to go to Philly.
I don't really matter. To me, it doesn't really. I don't really care who the Padres play in that first round. But I do think it would be great storylines if the Mets are then coming to San Diego to.
Oh yeah, that would be an amazing storyline.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the Padres went into their building, smacked them, went on to the next round. They'll certainly be looking to do the same thing, but the Padres, I think, have a better team. Yeah. So I think there's a bunch of cool storylines, and one thing that's usually not pertaining is the Padres. But the Padres have all of the cool storylines, I think, on the National League side of postseason play.
Can we just put into perspective how many games the Padres have actually won this year? Like, they have a chance to win if they sweep this week, and they have a chance to win 94 games, which is top 4 in franchise history. And I don't think, I guess I don't think we're really like admiring the team like we should in regards to the franchise history. This is one of the best teams in Padres history.
And this goes to my thought on people who always want to like try to say the division doesn't matter. You know why we're not paying attention to it? To the 90 plus
one wins because we didn't win the division?
Because we didn't win the division. Had this been a division winner, we'd be talking about this differently than we are right now. You know what I'm saying? But we didn't. And so now we're just, we're on to the next thing. All right, we got 92, 3, 4 wins. All right, who we playing in the playoffs? Because there's nothing really to chat about after that. It's a great season.
Yeah.
But if you look back, you're like, man, they didn't even win their division with 94 wins. And that's, that's a tribute to the division in itself. But still, like, we'd be talking about it different if this was the division, right?
Yes, Ben Higgins just texted me and said, Padres clinched the home field with 2 wins versus Arizona or 1 win versus Arizona plus 1 Mets loss.
He must have tuned in at some other point.
I'm just repeating it because I get all confused by these clinching scenarios, and he put it right there in a nice little text message for me.
We literally just said that.
It's okay, Ben. I appreciate the text message. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Ben.
Jackson Merrill, you mentioned him. He said just getting the opportunity to play in the playoffs was our main goal. We wanted it to be the division we were pushing for, but sometimes stuff doesn't go your way. And all of the quotes that I read yesterday from Padres players and whoever was interviewed was basically the same thing. Like, the division wasn't an actual thing until maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So winning the division would have been nice, as Jackson said, but all these guys are more focused on what's going to happen in the postseason. They would have liked, again, to win the division, but they're not angry or sad or frustrated that they didn't win the division, which I think is a really good sign.
Great. Ben, what we were really trying to figure out is if the Braves can actually catch the Padres at the top spot. That's what we were actually trying to figure out. So if you could help us out with that, that'd be great. What were you saying now?
No, I was just saying, like, them pretty much saying that, like, they wanted to win the division. That would have been icing on the cake for all these guys. And their focus is definitely on the playoffs. Their focus is on the postseason. And so I think, because the division would have been hard to reach, I think it's a good thing for them to be able to focus on their seeding now and focus on that first round of the playoffs, because now they kind of know what's ahead for them.
I'll buy that.
Ooh,
I'll buy that.
Wow.
I'll buy that they, you're shooting for the division at that point.
Uh-oh, did Ben text you?
He did. Yes, he answered what I really wanted. The Braves cannot catch the Padres. It's only the Mets and the Diamondbacks who can catch the Padres. So that's why a win today and a Mets loss ends that both. Thank you, Ben. He said you still seem confused, which is why he texted you about it. He didn't mean for you to read it. He didn't mean for you to read it out on the air.
I didn't know that.
It was for you, buddy.
I thought this was okay. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate the personal service, because it would have been easier for me to understand if these games on Monday, because instead of everybody basically having 3 games left, there's 5 games left for 2 teams.
Math has never been our strong suit.
Gosh,
and I'm okay with that. Joe Musgrove, can we talk about him a little bit? I thought he was phenomenal. At one point, I think he had like 61 strikes to like 19 balls.
Yeah, I heard you guys saying that last night.
Which is crazy, right? And, it just shows you, it speaks to a couple things, right? It speaks to how good he was in that game, and how, just one pitch in the wrong spot to a team like that can change on you on a whim.
Yeah.
And, I can't remember what the pitch was that he ended up leaving out over the middle of the plate to Smith. But he hit it. And I knew, from our angle, a lot of times when you watch it, it's like off the bat, you can tell. But he hit his high. So, and it was to center field. So, those ones are tougher to kind of read. But then I was watching him, and the way he discarded the bat, I was like, oh, no.
He got it.
I think he got it. And then start watching Jackson, and you seeing him slow up, and it's like, oh no.
It was a fastball,
And
basically down the middle.
talk about going from one end of like, okay, this Padres in control here, to like boom, to the other end. It was quick.
I think the Dodgers just wanted to wrap up the division. They smelt blood in the water, but would you think that Mike Shildt would manage that differently if they were in the playoffs? I know Joe was going well. You just said it. He threw 61 strikes to 9 balls.
There was nothing. How did the first guy get on? Was it a walk?
Yeah, Max Muncy walked.
Max Muncy walked. Okay, so the pitch count's stupid low. Does the first bad thing that has happened to him all game, are you reacting to that in that moment? That's really is what it would have had to be. First, he would have had to see, Mike Shildt would have had to seen, even though there was no signs of it, you would have had to seen this walk coming and already had somebody going. Because at that point, even after the walk, if you start to think, all right, well, maybe we should get somebody up. At that point, my man is already up. Will Smith is up. So, I think, no, I don't think he would have managed that any different. I think he actually managed that like he would have, right? I mean, he didn't. What, Joe got another batter?
He got, Will Smith, Tommy Edman, and then Tanner Scott came in.
Yeah, so he didn't even get another batter. They gave up to Homer.
Tommy Edman struck out.
To get Edman, and then he bounced back and struck Edman out. So I think he managed it exactly how he probably would have. Gwynn got Scott, and then, things kind of went from there.
He threw, 85 pitches last night, 58 of those for strikes, so ratio is pretty good. I'm not going to even panic about Tanner Scott. I figured that you may have thought I was going to.
Nobody is allowed to panic about anybody after the panic that they had for Robert Suarez, and then they were ready to put Tanner Scott in there, and now he had a bad night. Now we're not ready to put him in there. Come on, y'all.
No one can give up runs for the rest of the year, Tony. That is what we're looking at.
Okay, as long as we're being honest, that's fine. I could deal with that.
I heard Craig and Annie talking about this on the drive-in, but they were talking about how it's so weird that during the playoffs, it doesn't matter who you are. You go 0 for 3 in one game, and you're a bum, and you're trash, and you're the worst player on the team. But Craig was saying, basically, when you get to the postseason, you throw all that out, you cheer for your team and who you have out there, and you just hope for the best. I agree with him, because I don't want to nitpick every single little thing that happens throughout the postseason.
I have a crazy concept that I want you to hear out.
Okay.
Why not do that the whole time?
I mean, it makes sense to do that the whole time, because I did feel a little silly yesterday thinking about how panicked I was earlier in the year when things weren't going well, because, again, I reminded myself, and I've said this many times this year, it's very hard for me to stay in the moment.
The reality is it could have stayed that way all year long, right? But it didn't. It actually turned, and it turned for a long period of time, and it still turned, quite frankly. So, I'm just saying, if you should certainly be upset when things don't go your way, but I just think that, it's better to cheer for your team and hope that they do well.
Yes, someone on the chat said Tanner Scott has been great for us every game until last night, but last night wasn't even that big of a deal. I went back to look at his game log, and
he's fine.
Since September 1st, he has only given up an earned run in 3 games. And he's had 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 appearances. And when he does give up a run, the first time he gave up a run was September 10th against the Mariners. He didn't give up a run in the next 2. Then he gave up one against the Astros on September 16th. And then he went 4 games without giving up a run.
You have to look at the context of those runs, too. I mean, is he coming in with a 2-run lead? Is he coming in behind? I mean,
True.
That all that matters. So, I mean, it's hard to just look at the number. I can just tell you from the eye test, he looks fine. He looks fine. Let's see. Tanner was he had 2/3 of an inning, 3 hits. One of those was unearned. You had a catcher's interference in there. There's a lot of cattywampus stuff happening in that game yesterday that the Padres don't normally do. When they just think about it, the first 2 games were really tight, and there was really no issues in terms of defense or any decision making, right? They won one, they lost one. And then yesterday, that game gets a much bigger score, and you can look at the two errors and realize how much they aided in the score getting away from the Padres like that.
Yeah. You were saying the uncharacteristic things that they did. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
I mean, the throw from the catcher's interference, and I get it. You can't control it, but in some regards, like that could end up mattering, right? If you get a catcher's interference in the eighth inning of a playoff game, that's going to matter. That could cost you a game when it. So those things, and again, the game is so much different now because we're talking about stealing strikes, and catchers are closer now, trying to make sure you steal the bottom of the zone and things of that nature. That's the risk you take when you're doing it, and it becomes a calculation of can you take those kind of risks all the time, right? There are spots in the game where maybe I can't try to get that extra inch or two to try to steal these strikes, right? I think that's part of it, understanding when it is. And then obviously Toddy's throw, like it didn't lead to a run per se, but it put two runners in scoring position that ended up scoring on a hit the next pitch, right? As opposed to just the one guy in scoring position,
Yeah, I do know that. Go ahead.
No. What do you
the chat said, great regular season. Take that energy to the postseason and play it game by game. Go Padres.
Word up. I like it. That is the and the funny thing is that's been the team's mindset all year.
That's true.
That's all they talk about. They go on game by game. I mean, Mike Shildt said it in our interview, game by game. That's how it's gonna go. And that is how you are able to flush bad stuff when you're bad. And that's how you're able to not allow yourself to think you're too good. It's just by moving on. You're not celebrating your 4-hit night the night before. You on to the next. I got to try to get FOMO.
You baseball players have some of the best compartmentalization, I think, in all of sports.
You have to, dog. If you don't have that skill, you get eaten up in a season because now you, especially because as humans we typically hang on to the negative stuff a lot. So those 0 for 4s, which you will have a ton of, if you can't learn how to forget it and move on, that's a rabbit hole that you can't dig yourself
I get
out.
it. I mean, I get myself in those. Does that surprise you at all that I get into my rabbit holes? But
Not at all.
Sometimes I'll say something on the show and I'll drive home and I'll think about it and then I start spiraling about it and then I tell myself, stop spiraling. It's going to be okay. Just move on. But it's really, I'm being genuine. It's got to be very hard for some of these guys to move on from bad days.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure those are the years that they struggle, is when it's harder to move on. And it's not a perfect science. I don't know anybody that has perfected it from that standpoint.
Yeah.
So, Padres back in action tonight. Yu Darvish toes the rubber. Merrill Kelly on the mound for the Diamondbacks. He's thrown the ball extremely well in his outings. So we'll see how the Padres have handled him pretty well, though. Padres have handled a lot of pitchers well, but him in particular, I think the Padres have done a good job with.
Who do you think he looks like?
My man from Something About Mary.
Oh,
Woogie.
Yeah.
He looks like Woogie.
He does.
I can't remember
It's really
the actor's
funny.
name, but that's what he looked like.
I think Woogie is the name for sure.
All right, let's get to break. Kirk Kinney on the other side, San Diego Union Tribune. He's got some thoughts on Mountain West, Pac-12, the showdown. Plus, who's going to be the quarterback this week? On the other side, more Gwynn and Chris. Indeed. Welcome back, Gwynn and Chris. Minus the Chris, Matt Skraby and Tony Gwynn Jr. here. Getting you set before Sam Levitt takes over the pregame. But right now, is our guest ready?
Yes, he is.
Oh, well, all right. Joining us.
It's kind of funny, right? When Adam's on the board, guests come on time. When I'm on the board, it's like 7 minutes late.
Yeah, take it. Well, you know, I'm not going to say anything. Anyway, Kirk Kenny joins us here, San Diego Union Tribune. Kirk, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Hey, Skraby, you might want to keep that note to yourself.
He's just shooting himself down. It's hilarious.
Don't bring it up in your annual evaluation.
Oh,
yeah,
that's where I'm good at.
Chris isn't here. I didn't say it. He's just shooting on himself right now. I don't even understand what's going on. Kirk, a lot going on right now, man. We'll start with just the conference stuff.
Okay.
There seems to be a race right now for who can fill their conference with the level the level that they needed to, as well as the amount of teams they needed to be at. Mountain West, I don't know what's going on here between the Pac-12 and the Mountain West.
Well, it's been going back and forth for a couple weeks now on who. Well, let's start. So the Pac-12, any conference has to have 8 teams in order to be eligible for the playoffs and such. And the Pac-12 reloaded with 4 Mountain West schools a couple weeks ago. Then they added another one this week, Utah State. But that only gives them 7. They thought they'd maybe get some AAC teams. That fell through, and so they were going to go tap into the Mountain West again. And Mountain West now has secured the rest of its teams. So they're at 7. Mountain West is at 7, and you got to be at 8. Obviously they're going to backfill somehow, and they aren't going to do it now. The Pac-12 is not going to be able to fill at this point with as good a teams as they thought. And Mountain West, I think they'll backfill with some schools from some of the other Group of 5 conferences. So we'll just see how it plays out.
Well, Kirk, what do you think? Does one have an advantage over the other at this point? I mean, it certainly seems like the Mountain West was basically able to keep the teams in the fold by the exit money that they're going to have from the teams that are leaving. How is that sustainable on the Mountain West side? Will that keep those teams there? Does one side have an advantage right now?
Seems like the Mountain West is. It's funny. It seems like the leverage shifts from hour to hour or day to day. And the Mountain West had all that money now from the Pac-12 for the poaching fees and the exit fees. So they seem to be in the driver's seat now because they could throw around money to keep their schools intact. A month and a half ago, it seemed like the Pac-12 was in more of the driver's seat because they had a pretty good war chest for them to kind of navigate how they wanted to. But, from one moment to the next, it just seems like something that they're counting on falls through either conference, and then something else happens. So I think there's still a lot to be determined. And one thing is the Pac-12 this week. Another thing is they said they're going to sue to not have to pay the poaching fees. So I'll be interested to see how that plays out. As far as I know, that they had some good lawyers read over their contract before they signed it. So I don't know on what basis they're going to try and get out of that.
We're talking to Kirk Kenny here of the San Diego Union Tribune, and this is probably a question you can't answer, but when are these conferences and these people at the top of the NCAA football, athletics, all that stuff, when are they going to realize that none of us care about any of this and we just want to see them play football?
Well, that's a good question. It's too bad. I've been doing this a while, and I'm just kind of exhausted from all the movement and the different things going on. It's like it takes so much away from the game.
Yeah.
But I've told several people years and years ago, I worked for a guy, and he said kind of the American way is to take something good and make it great and then take it a step further and ruin it. And that's just, I feel like we're on that road for college football and all college sports for that matter. And it saddens me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, in the effort to be perfect, it seems like it has kind of eaten itself in some ways, which isn't as fortunate. All right, let's shift gears. Kirk Kenny joins us, San Diego Union Tribune. Danny O'Neill was out against Cal because of injury. Who's going to quarterback this week?
Danny O'Neill.
He's back.
I found out he's going to be back this week, and it's, this really sets up as an interesting game. And we'll start with Danny O'Neill and that news. He injured his knee 3 weeks ago against Oregon State. He finished that game, but then they determined he wasn't their best option for the Cal game. So they started the backup, Javance Johnson. And he did fairly well, but they lost that game. But now they feel like Danny's well enough that he can be their best option for this game. I'm most intrigued. It's a left knee injury, and he's been wearing a brace on it. And watching him in practice, he's moving around pretty well, but I still, when I see that brace, you're not the guy you are when you are completely healthy. So I'm most interested to see how he gets around with that brace on.
Yeah, that is interesting. Because he does kind of move a little bit, right? He has a little bit of running in his game, or is that something that he's going to have to go away from?
Yeah, I mean, he's not Lamar Jackson, but it's definitely a weapon they can use to, especially to go get a first down or, just give the defense something else to consider. So if that is taken away, we'll see how well the Central Michigan defense does at pinning its ears back and coming after him. I don't know. We'll see also, is there a quicker trigger maybe to bring the other guy in if they start to feel like Danny just isn't quite game ready.
Yeah. Kirk Kenny joins the San Diego Union Tribune. Kirk, the Aztecs are 1-2 on the season. Where are you at? What have you seen from the team in 3 games? I know 3 games is an early check-in point, but given the fact that they haven't had their quarterback, especially last week. I mean, where's this team at right now? Is there some progression being seen, at least from the staff's standpoint?
I saw progress in the second half of the first game when they scored 42 points. And that's about the most extended period we've seen where this offense has shown what it can do. Because between injuries and especially penalties, Aztecs they lead the nation in penalties per game with 13. And that's taken away a lot of their big plays the offense could have made some plays that even took away a defensive touchdown when they had a block in the back.
Yeah.
But a lot of those penalties, a majority of the penalties were on the offensive line, either with false starts or holds and things. And so they've had 2 weeks to kind of sort through that and maybe see if they can clean that up a little bit. And I think that's going to be the key for the Aztecs offense, is just not shooting themselves in the foot.
Talking to Kirk Kenny of the San Diego Union Tribune about Aztecs football. They are playing Central Michigan this weekend, and I like to be dramatic, Kirk. You know that I like to frame things as if it's like the last thing that this person is ever going to do on this earth. But are we too early in the Sean Lewis head coach career to say this game is a must-win?
Yes.
I mean, I know the answers to these questions. I just want to see if I'm going to get something different.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's the short answer. The longer one is, and again, we're in a society now where they want to make a call after one play, 1 quarter, 1 game, and,
right.
These things take a little while to play out. I mean, look at the Padres are a great example. I had people pulling their hair out in May, like, the world's coming to an end, and then we get past the All-Star break and things are clicking. And, the same thing applies here, and I think in football. There's still a lot of football to be played, and let's just see, once the Aztecs kind of get a few more games under their belt, which way this is going to go.
Patience, Kirk Kenny says, everybody.
I mean, they haven't even started conference yet, right?
Skraby's ready for must-wins right now.
Right.
Ready for must-wins.
Mr. Kirk, thank you for your time, man. We appreciate you.
No problem. Glad to do it.
Kirk Kenny, San Diego Union Tribune, and Skraby. Come on, dog. We're 1-2, dog. How can it possibly be a must-win for him? Like,
do you really want me to answer that question?
Yes, please.
Okay. It possibly could be a must-win for them.
Do I really want me to answer this question?
Yes,
please.
People
Please
ask me,
this.
are you really serious about your questions? And the answer is somewhat. And the reason is because, we do live in that society where the last thing that you do is the thing that we judge. And Sean Lewis came in here, and personally, he's going to have to go through this whole year. For me, he's going to have to go through this whole year, and it's going to be a transition year for the program. But I think a lot of people are thinking, hey, you cannot start 1-3 in your debut with the Aztecs.
Yes, you can start 1-3 in your debut with the Aztecs. Stop it. Yes, you can. There's no rule saying you're not allowed to start 1-2 or you have to be fired.
I didn't say he was going to be fired, but 1-3 is not the place that the Aztecs want to be.
He's not even there yet, though.
I know. He has to play Central Michigan tomorrow.
So can he at least have the game first before we start saying 1-3? That's all I'm saying, dog.
Sorry, I don't know if you were talking to me, but I had to run back to my seat. So we're playing musical chairs in studio. There's a lot going on.
Is that on camera? You running back to your seat?
It was just nothing there for a little bit, and then Adam came back in the room, so that's why I wasn't there. But
I definitely was talking to you, but I don't remember what I said now. So it's all.
Well, you were
good.
probably just saying that I was ridiculous or something because I thought that the Aztecs should have won.
Oh yeah. It was counting losses. Exactly. You're counting losses before they actually happen. But
Let me go see if the chat's crushing me right now.
Why? Why do you need to see that?
I'm a sucker for punishment.
Yes, you are. You just wanna see it.
Well, someone said the other day, don't you want to go on the Discord, the Gwynn and Chris Discord, and look at everything real time? And I'm like, no, I definitely don't want to go on the Discord.
Wait, what is that?
It's like it's a new chat system. It's like a new chat thing. It's not new, actually. It's been around for a long time, but you can connect with people and you can basically have a long conversation. Like the YouTube chat is on a different app, but you could do it all day, every day.
Was that on video games at some point?
It was kind of for video games.
For video game? Okay, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Never used it before, but.
No, you have, because Adam had us download it when
that's
COVID.
That's where I remember it from. Okay, yeah, you're right. Oof. COVID.
Did you just get a shiver up your stomach?
Yeah, that made me sick. All right, let's get to break. I have to get myself ready to head to the field. I will rejoin a little bit later, but
yes,
I will. I need to step away, so let's get you to break. When we come back, Skraby, what you got? Daily Gambit?
Not the Daily Gambit. I am going to be talking about some of the things that the Padres we were talking about earlier, and I'm scrolling down, which is. Like, I guess I want to look ahead a little bit to the playoff rotation because Eno Sarah said something on Ben and Woods yesterday that I thought was pretty good. So I'm going to bring that up and talk about it.
Yeah, probably a better time to bring it up.
I think you would agree with him on this one, but yes.
All right. More Gwynn and Chris on the other side. More Skraby on the other side.
back with you here in the Odyssey Palace. This is Gwynn and Chris, 97.3 The Fan. Tony Gwynn Jr. will be back in about 20 minutes for the countdown, which I'll give you the topic now. It's our top 5 reasons we love the baseball postseason. So that will be at 3:40, and then we will have him back again for the Big 5 at 4:40. And also, Chris will be back next Wednesday from his vacation. So he will be right in the thick of things when he gets back, because the Padres are likely, I say likely because I do not want to jinx it and be accused of jinxing it, but I say likely will have a home playoff series in the wild card. So that would be a huge change from 2 years ago, and that would be a huge advantage for the Padres. We already know that the Padres have great home field advantage, so I want to see this crowd get going during a wild card series where all of the games are in one stadium. You don't have to travel back and forth. I think that's going to be something that the Padres can lean on a little bit. And so we'll talk about that as the show goes along. Sammy left yesterday, and he is here in the building. And I just am not really a fan of his right now. And if you watched the show yesterday, you know why. And it was because he threw me under the bus. And he threw me under the bus to the point where I wanted to cry. No, I didn't want to cry at all. But Sam Levitt is in the building, and he is going to be on Sammy versus the Fans here coming up at 4 o'clock. If he can make it, he has an interview. But Sammy versus the Fans also, he's going to join us at 5 o'clock. I'm willing to let everything go, Sam. Willing to let everything go. All right. I said before the break that we're going to talk about what Sarah said on Ben and Woods, and he was talking about I guess they asked him about the playoff rotation for the Padres. And Sarah, if you don't know, he writes for The Athletic. He's really good on the pitching stuff. He has a lot of different analytics and stats. But the morning show, Ben and Woods asked him for who he thought should be the first or the game 1 starter for the Padres.
This is my game 1 starter. And I think that informs something, because if he comes out and wins it, then I can do a much more traditional sort of, we're just going to do the rotation after that, If he loses it, then a lot of this discussion goes out the window, because then it's Joe Musgrove for 2 and he puts a batter on, there is no tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it could be just everybody in the second game. So, I do think that King is probably slots in 4th just maybe for the seniority's sake. But in terms of quality, I think I might have it Cease, King, Musgrove, Darvish. But they're all, I think, like top 25, top 30 type pitchers for me. So the difference is fine. And it is a little bit more about who's willing to come out of the pen and what happens, I think, in game 1. But easily for me, Dylan Cease starts game 1.
This is kind of surprising to me, because I guess I just always assumed that, in my mind, Yu Darvish would start game 1, and I don't really know why I put the emphasis on Yu Darvish, because he just came back a couple weeks ago from his extended stay, away from the team. But Dylan Cease, to me, is probably the right choice. And the reason he's the right choice is because we've seen him at times this year be one of the better pitchers in all of baseball. He has over 200 strikeouts this year. He has a no-hitter this year. There was a stretch of baseball where he gave up like 3 hits over 3 games. He's been doing crazy stuff all season long. And since game 1 of the wild card is so important to win, because you get out to that lead, you don't really have that pressure of losing the second game and going home. I think Dylan Cease gives you the best opportunity to put up zeros on the board in game 1. Now, if they do need Dylan Cease to pitch somewhere else, I also think he works in the second spot. Say they have Joe Musgrove or Yu Darvish go game 1. Dylan Cease could be a stopper for them in game 2 if they lose that game 1. I think Dylan Cease is a guy that you put in the spot in the rotation for the playoffs where you need to get a win, which is game 1 or game 2. But game 1 sets the tone for the rest of the series, and game 1 of the wild card series is so important because it's only a 3-game series. We saw this in 2022. Padres won the first game with Yu Darvish on the mound. Then they lost the second game, and then they came back with Joe Musgrove on the mound, and they won the third game. They come home, and they play the Dodgers. And we know that the pressure, when the pressure is at its highest, I want the guys who have done it all year with all the pressure on them, and that would be Dylan Cease. And Paul said something on the roundtable yesterday because he mentioned that Michael King was his. Let me go back to. I wrote this down. He mentioned that his order would be Cease, Michael King, Joe Musgrove, and Yu Darvish. And I don't know that Michael King is going to make the rotation. And we're going to hear from Mike Shildt at 5:20. I did ask him about possible bullpen things going on with the playoffs, but we didn't get much of an answer because obviously we're not there yet, so we don't really know. But I liked what Paul said yesterday on the roundtable. If Michael King is not a starter for the Padres, which he, in my mind, is likely not to be, he should be the first guy out of the bullpen if a pitcher struggles. Because Michael King has that experience out of the bullpen, and Michael King has that attitude that he's going to go out there and do whatever the team asks him to do. And Michael King also is a guy who has pitched so well this year. He might even be the Padres' best pitcher this year outside of Dylan Cease. He probably is the Padres' best pitcher this year outside of Dylan Cease. Michael King has been a revelation, and he has done a lot this year to prove that he can handle these big-time spots. And I guess there's no real substitute for pitching in the playoffs, the actual playoffs. I guess there's no real substitute to kind of figure out what you're going to be like, but I can only assume that Michael King is going to rise to the occasion. He's done it all season long, and we had questions coming into the year about Michael King. He's answered all those questions, which some of the questions were: how many innings can he go? Is he going to be able to start the entire season? How is he going to be as a starter in his first season? And he's answered all those questions with he's going to be just fine, and he's going to go the entire season, and he's going to strike out a lot of guys. And so if Michael King comes out of the bullpen, say they get in trouble with the starter in the third inning, you have a guy that can go 3-4 innings if you need him to. And sometimes you need those guys in the playoff series to eat a chunk of innings. And who else would you want out there than Michael King? I don't know that I want anyone else out there out of the bullpen for a long relief type of role than Michael King. You have Brian Hoeing, who he was in the game last night. Brian Hoeing is a great pitcher for the Padres. I mean, he's been a good pitcher for the Padres, but I don't necessarily. It's the word trust is a weird word for me to use, but I don't necessarily think that he's the right guy when, say, the Padres are down 3 runs after 3 innings or something like that. And I know that I'm putting out things out there and I'm knocking on all the wood, but these are the things that they have to prepare for, and they are preparing for. But it was interesting to hear, Saris be so emphatic that Dylan Cease is his guy, hands down. And I'm gonna listen to Saris. Every time that he's predicted something, he's pretty spot on what he says. So if he's saying it, then there is some truth behind it. And the rotation in the wild card series is probably the hardest to figure out, because you got to get 5 guys down to 3, and then you got to put guys in the bullpen, and then you got to you have to figure out who you want to take off the roster. And side note, if you missed it earlier, we asked Mike Shildt about Ha-Seong Kim, and he didn't have positive things to say about the recovery timetable for Ha-Seong Kim. So to me, I'm planning on not having Ha-Seong Kim this entire postseason. So there's they don't have to worry about that roster spot right there. He's already on the IL and all that, but still, and Adam has Mike Shildt talking about Ha-Seong Kim. What is the status of Ha-Seong Kim and when he could potentially rejoin the team?
Yeah, you know what? I wish he had really super positive news. He's just hadn't been able to be able to get over that hump with his throwing. The hitting's not a problem. That part's good, but him being able to consistently throw with any aggressive, anything behind it, and intensity just hadn't happened. So, we're still weighing what's taking place, but right now he's not in a spot where we can count on him in the very near future.
Mike, is there a point where it's too late and that window closes?
There is,
Okay.
Steve. We may be getting there, and we'll know something here, sooner than later.
So there you go, straight from the Padres manager mouth. It doesn't bode well for the future in my mind. And you also have to think about whether or not Ha-Seong Kim has actually played his last game in a Padres uniform because of the injury. And he has a contract situation coming up after this year where he gets to choose. And there are people saying that he is not going to return to the Padres. And that's still yet to be seen. We don't know. And who knows what this injury does for the future prospects of a contract. But Ha-Seong Kim's going to make money. He's going to make a lot of money. And he probably deserves it for the defensive side. And I don't know that the Padres are going to be willing to pay that money. So we may have seen the last of Ha-Seong Kim. Now, as Tony said earlier, he's going to be in the dugout throughout the playoff series. So his vibes can be there, but he's not going to be on the field. And I this is going to sound harsh, but I do think it helps the Padres make a decision they didn't want to make, which would be moving Xander Bogaerts out of shortstop, or even the team hasn't really skipped a beat since Ha-Seong Kim has gone on the IL, and that's not a knock on him as a player. It's just kind of a fact. And so would you want to put Ha-Seong Kim back in there, mess up the flow of everything right now? And really, if he's injured and he's not going to be in the playoffs, it just makes things way easier for the Padres to make a decision. Last thing before we head to break, someone on the chat said that Dylan Cease, hell no. He's too, you never know what you're going to get. So his past 5 starts, Dylan Cease, his last one last night, 2 nights ago, 5 innings, gave up 3 runs. He struck out 4. We know that it wasn't his best start, and he said as much after the game. But if you look at the 2 previous starts, you can see why he could be the guy to lead the rotation in the wild card series. He went 8 1/3 against the Astros. He went 6 against the Giants. No runs given up. We know how well he pitched against the Astros. I mean, he was Xander Bogaerts' throw away from a complete game there. He went 6 innings against I guess he pitched back-to-back against the Giants. So he went 6 innings each against the Giants. He had 10 strikeouts in San Francisco. Dylan Cease is a strikeout artist. Dylan Cease is a great pitcher, and I feel very comfortable with Dylan Cease if he is the Game 1 pitcher for the Padres. I am Matt Skraby. This is Gwynn and Chris. And when we get back, Tony's going to rejoin me, and we're going to do the countdown, which is our top 5 of something. And this time, our top 5 things we like about the postseason. And let me tell you, my list is very different from Tony's list. So, countdown. When we get back. 97.3 The Fan. the Odyssey Palace, 97.3 The Fan, getting ready for a final regular season series for the Padres against the Diamondbacks out there in Arizona. Game starts at 6:40. Sam Levitt has your EcoWater Padres, SoCal Padres pregame show at 5:40. And we're going to be doing the countdown here in just a second. Top 5 things that we love about postseason baseball. And my list is a lot different from Tony's list because Tony actually got to play in the postseason. So I've never really spent much time on a postseason baseball field. So mine is more feelings, and Tony is more like actually being there. So you'll get both sides. You'll get the fan side, you get Tony's side. We talked to Mike Shildt a little bit earlier, so if you would like to go listen to that, you can go on YouTube and go back to the very beginning of the show. He joined us right out the gate at 2 p.m., and you can go on the YouTube all the way back to the beginning. You can hear that, and we'll also be playing that for you at 5:20, and there was a lot talked about, a lot of questions about focusing on this weekend versus focusing on the playoffs, and Ha-Seong Kim and some of the other, kind of minor details that are happening right now for the Padres going into that final regular season series. And, I saw in the chat that, because I said last segment, I said that Ha-Seong Kim might mess with the flow of the team, and if they were to bring him back. And someone brought up, Podzilla actually on the chat, brought up that that's what they said about Fernando when he was coming back. Now, personally, I did not say that about Fernando, and Podzilla, he recognized that. But it is ridiculous to me for anyone to think that if you were to have Fernando Tatis Jr. in your lineup, that you would get worse, or because he was in the lineup, the team is the flow is messed up. That doesn't happen with Fernando Tatis Jr. And we've seen him ever since he came back from the IL. He's been great. He's been more than great. Fernando has been the Fernando that we have wanted him to be all year long, and pretty much for the most part when he's healthy has been. There's been struggles there, but right before he got injured, he was on fire, and now he's hitting home runs at Dodger Stadium. Fernando's doing, he's doing what he needs to do as Fernando. Now, Ha-Seong Kim on the other side, Ha-Seong Kim is not Fernando Tatis Jr. Ha-Seong Kim is someone who can't change the game in ways that Fernando can't. So when I say that Ha-Seong Kim is going to mess up the flow, I actually mean that he'll mess up the flow of maybe the guys that are already playing. He's been cold now, as they said yesterday on the roundtable, for a month and a half at this point. He has not played in a professional baseball game in a month and a half. So what are you going to do? You're going to bring back Ha-Seong Kim. You're going to put him in the lineup. You're going to have him get back to normal, back to major league ready hitting. No, it's not going to work that way. You're not going to just put him back in the lineup for the playoffs either. You got to make sure that you're doing it. You got to take advantage of every single matchup during the playoffs. And the Padres sort of did that. They kind of showed their playoff baseball offense last night when they were scratching out runs. Runs are very expensive in the playoffs. And if you are able to get 2-3 runs with the bullpen and the rotation that the Padres have, you should win that game, I think. And they're built for it. I mean, Luis Arraez, he has struggled in the last couple, maybe the last week or so, but Luis Arraez is a hitting machine. He is built for the playoffs. He is built to get on base, and the guys behind him are built to drive him in. So we saw a little bit before the wheels came off last night. We saw a little bit of the Padres offense and what it could resemble in the playoffs. I mean, these last 3 games against the Dodgers have actually felt like playoff games, and last night was no different. I'll ask Sam Levitt at 5 p.m. about that, whether or not those games were feeling like they were playoff games or not. All right, we have the countdown, and we also need to get your traffic report. So traffic first, and then Tony rejoins me for the countdown.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
A bunch of people get to spend part of their weekend getting their vehicles in for some servicing. Numerous stalled vehicles, one in middle lanes on southbound 5 right before the 52, also east 8 before Texas Street. Stalled car in lane next to the slow lane. South 5 at the North 15 connector, a stall over to the right shoulder. Also a stall eastbound 78 before Sycamore. This has got the right lane blocked. And we got a crash being moved out of middle lanes on northbound 15 before Villa Rancho Parkway. AleSmith 394 Pale Ale, the official rally pint of the playoff push. Catch all the San Diego baseball action this week at the AleSmith Tasting Room in Miramar. Enjoy specials on 394 and more while you cheer on your team with fellow fans. Don't miss the excitement. On this weekend, go to the Miramar Air Show and stop in afterwards. I'm Kelly Danek with Gwynn and Chris, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
It's now time for Gwynn and Chris to rank their top 5 of the day.
Gonna grip and rip as usual.
But this isn't just a regular top 5 list.
I love it. It sounds sadistic, but I love it.
This is the countdown. And it starts right now on 97.3 The Fan.
You know, sometimes, Tony, it's really, really difficult to find a topic for the countdown. We could sit here for 20 minutes and name a billion different things, and we never find it until it finally pops into our head like today's countdown, which is going to be the top 5 things you like about postseason baseball, which I think is obviously fitting. And before we get into it, if you love Mediterranean food, try Spiro's for authentic Mediterranean cuisine in Coronado or La Jolla. For dining or takeout options, visit spiroscuisine.com.
Number 5.
I guess I'll start, Tony, if that's all right with you. My number 5 is going to be the fact that when playoff baseball gets here, the air is crisp, the sun is going down earlier and earlier, and you feel fall is here. You know that winter's just around the corner, and I love that feeling of fall being here. So that's my number 5. I knew you were going to laugh at that one. The rest of them are baseball related, but I just know it.
You clearly could come up with 4 there, and you just winged 5 there. I like that. That's very.
There's a creative human being in me.
Very freestyle of you right there. Number 5 on my list. I don't know what you call these things, but I just call them the 4th of July banners that they have. That reminds me of postseason every time I see them. And so, therefore, I don't like when they use them at the beginning of the year. I only like when I see them this time of year because that means it's postseason. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I don't even know how you describe them. Like the,
I know what you're saying. They're like little
red,
they look like
white, and
4th of July banners. I don't know how else to describe them.
I don't know how to describe them either. But that reminds me of playoff baseball. Number 5.
That's a better one than fall's on the way.
Number 4.
I do love fall though. Soup and
there's just a way better way you could have said it. But
and grilled cheeses at night. It's just good stuff.
Postseason baseball.
Because when postseason baseball reaches us, that means that I'm eating grilled cheese and soup for dinner, okay? You can't eat grilled cheese and soup during the summer. It's too hot.
You locked in a juvenile detention center with grilled cheese and What is going on?
I might be. I also eat Fruity Pebbles for breakfast and all of that good stuff. All right. My number 4 has something to do with baseball, and it's just like the anticipation and the big-time feel of each game, because you know each game's important. You know that the season is on the line for these games, and it's just like the importance of everything is much more elevated than it is during the regular season. So little things become big things, and I love that about the drama of postseason baseball.
Number 4 on my list is kind of along the lines of fall weather, right? You see the air coming out of guys' mouth, especially you're back east and in one of those Philly or New York settings. Pitcher's on the mound, he's locked in, steam's rolling off of his hat because it's cold out. It's colder outside. You see a lot more turtlenecks, long sleeves. One of my favorite parts. I mean, you can catch, it's not solely specific to playoff baseball because you can catch that earlier in the season too, but it's just a different feel come October when you see some of that gear. I often think of the Guardians, but at the time the Indians. Kenny Lofton with his red turtleneck, long sleeve joint. That's playoff baseball to me.
Are you eating grilled cheese and soup?
No. I'm eating grilled cheese and soup.
Okay. When you guys go to a cold city for the playoffs, I need you during the game to be eating grilled cheese and soup. I'm going to have Dave Marcus do this for you.
Number 3.
That sounds like a Dave Marcus thing.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Now I'm going to have to go home and eat grilled cheese and soup because now I'm starving for it. My number 3 is like I guess I'm basing this off of the games that I went to in 2022 when the Padres were in the playoffs, and it's the energy of the home crowd because you can feel it together. Like that game against the Dodgers, Game 5 of the NLDS. You often say it, a lot of people often say it, but it felt like the whole stadium was kind of like meshing into one. It felt like a big old, brotherhood, sisterhood type thing. So I like the roar of the crowd, the feeling that we're all together in this, and just the euphoria that happens when your team wins.
Number 3 on my list is the strategy. The games with runs at a premium. You just see strategy a lot different. It's probably more extreme because, you're in a situation where a loss can send you home. And that's so much different than the 162 that we played during the regular season where you got a game tomorrow and there's another one after and another one after. And so you're trying to, keep people healthy during that time. And so there's so many more things that factor into it. Those factors go out the window when come playoffs. I mean, you have kept everybody healthy by doing what you did in the regular season so you can unleash them come playoff time. And so I just love that the strategy gets tighter. The downside is you get a lot of millions of new managers and hitting coaches and fielding coaches and umpires. That's the downfall, but I do enjoy the strategy of it.
All right.
Number 2.
This is just a hater one, but when the team that you don't like is eliminated, and especially if the team that you don't like is eliminated in heartbreaking fashion. Like, I'll just go back to 2022. When the Dodgers were eliminated, that was incredible because no one thought they could do it, and everybody picked the Dodgers, and I don't like the Dodgers, so when they went home, it made me feel pretty good. Hater comment, yes.
Yes, indeed it was. Number 2 on my list is a little bit like your 3, but it's not necessarily the home crowd, being into it. It's the dynamic of how the home crowd can be shut up or can be energized, right? I mean, we watched it. We go back to 22 games, game 3, right? Or yeah, was it game 3? Game 2. Game 2, right? Padres lose game 1. They come back. They win game 2 in LA, and it went from it being a raucous crowd after winning game 1 to, the goose landing on the field.
Oh yeah,
and then Padres putting up some runs and it just being silent. And the energy was really determined by what the Padres were doing offensively. I guess it depends on how you look at it, right? I mean, I guess the Dodgers didn't do their job. They allowed the Padres. But however you want to look at it, the crowd is controlled by what is happening to the team, right? Their team was getting beat.
Yeah.
And so in that case, the home crowd wasn't any good, but then the following night, as you mentioned, the crowd was amazing as they returned to San Diego and put it on them. And so I just love that dynamic, how you can just take a crowd out of it with a crooked number early, and you can keep them out of it as long as you can keep their team off the board.
That's a good one. That is a good one. The silencing of the crowd is a very good one.
Number 1.
My number 1 is going to be when players do superhuman things in the playoffs, mostly the World Series. And I'm just going to reference Madison Bumgarner because that was the first guy that came to mind. But when he was the 2014 World Series MVP, he went 2-0. He gave up .43. He had a .43 ERA. He gave up only 1 run in 21 World Series innings. He came back on short rest. Just superhuman stuff like that I love because you already have the best baseball players in the world playing in this game. And then when you can go one step further than the best baseball players in the world, that's what impresses me, and that's what's fun to remember.
Interesting. Number 1 on my list is just the high level of play from pitchers to hitters to infielders. I mean, everybody. There is just something about the playoffs that heightens your focus and it heightens your awareness. And in baseball, when those things are heightened on the field by everyone, you get a really, really high-level game being played. The velocity goes up. We see guys laying off of pitches they don't normally lay off, or they don't lay off of often. And I just appreciate that. I got a chance to experience it myself in 2008, and you can feel it. And it applied to me. Like I felt like I was, although I was nervous as hell, I felt like I was as fast as I'd ever been. I felt great. And that's all being in that like you could like feel it. Like in Philadelphia, I remember sitting in the dugout, like looking up, and all these white towels are like waving, and like you can feel like the energy, like you can literally feel it. And walking onto the on deck circle and into the box, you're trying to harness that because it can overwhelm you easily. Like you can just be taken over by it, and that is like the fun part is like trying to, I mean, it's not fun in the time. You're like worried. You're trying to do a job, and you're like trying to keep yourself in this right space. But looking back on it, like that's the charge right there.
Yeah. That's what you play for, right?
Right.
Is that
100%.
little feeling right there.
Yep.
All right. Well, Padres still have 3 regular season games left against the Diamondbacks, but they are headed to the playoffs. We could say that for sure. So we'll be feeling all of these things very soon, especially my grilled cheese and soup next week. All right. When we get back, we have Adam versus the fans. Braden is not here today, so we're going to go Adam versus the fans. 833-288-0973 for your chance to win some Eric Clapton tickets. Also, qualification for Las Vegas. 4 o'clock hour here of Gwynn and Chris. I'm Matt Skraby. We got Adam Klug here on the ones and twos. We have Sammy Lev in studio, who's going to be playing Sammy versus the Fans here in just a second. Let me put you on the screen, Sam. There we go. He's here with all of us, and he just returned today. Sam, how was your drive back from Los Angeles?
It was good. Relatively easy. Had a nice lunch on the way back. I was inspired by Stephen Woods talking about taking his family to Seaside Market for dinner yesterday. So I was then inspired to go to Seaside Market today, where for the first time, and it's the second time I've ever been there, and I know you didn't ask for this whole
That's okay.
breakdown about my lunch.
I asked you what's going on.
Oh, okay. So I stopped at Seaside Market. I'd been there once before, but this time I went with the real purpose of like getting something to eat, some lunch. So I had the original barbecue Cardiff tri-tip sandwich. That's not the actual name, but it's pretty close. It was really good.
Yes.
It was really, really good.
From the actual place,
yes.
It's so good.
So I had a good sandwich.
You guys are getting along way too well right now.
Well, I already kind of
Skraby's supposed to be quote unquote mad at me.
I was mad until I saw you. It's very hard to dislike Sam Levitt.
Yesterday you cooked Skraby. Today you're talking about cooking your food.
Let's be honest about something. I didn't cook Skraby. That was like
that was your words.
That's
you literally
cooking?
said that. You said, I'm going to cook you.
I slightly critiqued two things you said on the radio.
You said the word cook, which means not slightly critique, means I'm going to hammer you for how dumb you are. That's what cook means, Sam. You want to get me going again? See, Adam is the pot stirrer. We were getting along until Adam said something. But, yeah, Sam and I are going to be fine.
By the way, we had some rave reviews of that 15-minute segment we did at Petco Park the other day. Every time you and I get together, Skraby, there are some rave reviews that come in. So don't get too bent out of shape about yesterday.
You know how many times people come up to me and say, you and Sammy should be doing something together, and then Sammy looks at him and says, I don't do stuff with Skraby. No, Sam always looks up like, I already have enough to do. I can't fit anything more into my schedule. But the off-season Skraby show, Fridays,
I think we should do it.
We're going to do
NFL picks.
Yes. We're going to have Sam on, and he's going to help me with the NFL.
Anyway, the sandwich at Seaside was really good. Had a nice drive back. Everything's good. Now getting ready for Padres pregame at 5:40. A big game for the Padres.
Yes.
Big series. They're in a good spot. They got a little bit more work to do, though.
In that same... Before we get to Sammy versus the Fans,
yes.
In that same parking lot where Seaside Market is,
yes.
Was the place where I went on my first ever date. And
where was that?
It was the restaurant's not there anymore. It moved. So that was when I was 18. Yes, I didn't have a date till I was 18. Don't read into that too much. Don't read into that too much.
I don't think I ever had a date in like a date. No.
Yeah, I mean
in high school. I'm trying to think what was in college. Maybe
I started really
a quote
dating
unquote
when
date.
I was 18. So we went to
never
the restaurant.
went particularly well.
Or
I always, had feelings, but they were never reciprocated.
Man, we are like cut from the same cloth. I'm always the one being like, "Hey, I like you."
Hey,
they're like, "Oh yeah, about that."
Yeah. Hey,
buddy?
I had a really great time. Like, hope we can do it again sometime. Then they text you back, and they're like,
I don't think it's gonna work.
I had a really nice time, but just really busy with classes right now, and think I need to focus on that.
The busy excuse. The busy excuse. I've heard that one. It doesn't make me angry or anything to this day. No, but when I went on the first day, I was so nervous, Sam, that they brought the waters over to the table, and I went to go grab the menu, and I punched the water, and it went all over my date. Like, all over. Like, all the water from the cups went on her. And that's how my first ever date started. Does it surprise you? Probably not.
I'm always caught in situations like that.
All right, well, maybe we need to write a book one day. Sammy versus the fans. You're going to be qualified for a chance to win our grand prize, a 2-night stay at Wynn or Encore Las Vegas, and 2 tickets to see Awakening. Awakening, the thrilling spectacle at Wynn Las Vegas, dazzles audiences with soaring aerialists, bounding acrobats, high-energy choreography, and comedic moments. At the heart of this compelling story, a hero must confront the forces of light and darkness in a quest to save the world. A mythic adventure unfolds set amid the most technologically immersive theater ever designed. Tickets are on sale now at awakening.com. And if you win today, you will win a pair of tickets to Eric Clapton at Pechanga Arena on October 8th. Limited tickets remain at axs.com. We got our callers. We got Sammy. Let's get to the game.
If you had one shot, one opportunity to take down the human almanac himself,
Howdy do.
now is your time.
Listen to me, this guy is dangerous.
Now is your opportunity to win a prize.
Well, I hope you know what you're in for.
Chris versus the fans starts now on 97.3 The Fan.
Now the chat's asking, is it the date that you went on where you left her at the table at dinner in Cincinnati and moved home? No, it was not her.
And somebody commented this on YouTube that there was a segment back in the day, and I think I've heard about this, where it was about you trying to get phone numbers or something.
Yes, Diesel
What
knows.
show was that?
It's on a competing radio station here in town.
Sorry.
But everybody who knows me knows where it was. But it was called Phone Screener Skraby Awkwardly Asks Out Girls at the Grocery Store. That was one of my first ever bits on the radio.
You should renew that bit.
No.
Why? It's
I
good
almost
content.
I almost legitimately got.
It's almost the
in
winter.
trouble.
You need content on this program.
I do not ever want to put myself in that position again because everyone said no. And I would just record myself anyway. It's just, anyway. All right. Let's get to our first contestant. And I got to read the rules. Never mind. Hold on. I'm all flustered with my date stories. You have to make it through 3 questions. Each question will get more difficult. If you get the question right, you move on. If you get it wrong and Sam gets it right, you're eliminated. But if Sam gets it wrong, then you move on to the next question or you win. And Chris vs. the Fans is presented by SD Fat Loss. Lose 20 to 30 pounds in just 60 days. Visit sdfatloss.com to schedule your free consultation. All right, we'll get started with Gilberto because last Friday, I believe it was last Friday, we accidentally hung up on you, Gilberto. How are you?
Hola, muchachos, ¿cómo están?
Muy bien.
Hey.
Gracias, ¿y tú?
Oh, I'm very happy, especially because last night.
Oh, yes. Gilberto is a Dodgers fan who has Padres season
and
tickets.
he's the first contestant?
We promised it to him last Friday.
Wow.
I mean, this
Sammy,
is not news
Sammy.
to anyone.
No, Sammy.
Yes.
Sammy, I'm a season ticket holder for the Padres.
Oh, okay. All
and,
right.
and I'm looking forward for them to clinch it so I can go to a game next week.
All right. You convinced me.
Yeah. Gilberto, good Padres, good baseball fan.
Good baseball fan. Okay.
All right, Gilberto, here we go. Question number 1. In football, what is it called when a defensive player catches a pass intended for an offensive player?
That's a pick, interception.
Correct. Question number 2. There are 2 players in baseball right now with an OPS over 1 for the season. Name both.
Over 1,000.
Over
1,000.
1,000?
It's 1.000. That's 1, right?
Over
It's
1?
1,000,
Okay, that's
Skraby.
1,000.
I gotta go with Otani and Judge.
Yeah.
Correct. Only 2 guys left. Not even Bobby Witt's up there. So they're putting together some great seasons. All right, we're already on the 3rd question. Sam might not even answer one of these things, so let's get to it.
I'm glad I got to the 3rd one.
You did. This one's tough, though. It's Padres playoff history question. Who is the only Padre with a multi-homer Game 1 in a postseason series?
Multi-homer.
Game 1 in a postseason series.
On a Game 1. Let me see. It's gotta be. I have to go with Ken Caminiti.
Ken Caminiti. Incorrect. Stay there, Gilberto. Sam, who is the only Padre with a multi-homer Game 1 in a postseason series?
Multi-homer Game 1 in a postseason series. This is testing me.
This came from the AJ Cassavell newsletter yesterday, or 2 days ago.
One time I don't read AJ's newsletter. Game one. Oh, I don't know. I don't think it was from 22. I don't remember a game one where somebody had a multi-home run game.
I'll help out.
Okay.
It was
You're
not,
gonna give me a clue?
It's not since you've worked for this station.
Yeah, see, this is what makes it difficult in all honesty. I don't know the answer.
Just guess a famous Padre.
I'll give you another guess if you want. I mean,
he's giving you two.
Let him guess.
Oh, Gilberto, do you have a guess now?
I have another guess, but it's one of the players that I really like that play for the Padres, and that's Steve Garvey.
Steve Garvey, incorrect. Gilberto has 2 strikes. Sam, just
I
give
don't
us
know.
a name.
I'm gonna guess wrong. I don't know.
Guess wrong.
I guess wrong. My 0 guess. I don't know.
I'd like to cook Sam for agreeing to play the game
what the heck,
and then not playing the game. Throw out the name
have
of
to say
somebody
a
who
name.
played for
You
the
have to
San
say a
Diego
name.
Padres.
Yeah, you see, Gilberto says you have to say it.
He already said Caminiti.
This
I don't know.
This is the last Sam versus the fans we're ever doing.
I
Want
don't
me
know.
to give you options?
Okay, I will. Okay, Gilberto, you have won the game, but I'm going to make Sam give me a name, and I will narrow it down. I'm sorry to everybody on hold, but Gilberto has won, so Gilberto, stay right there. Let's say this person played in the 90s.
It's not Tony Gwynn, right?
It's
No.
not Tony Gwynn.
I don't know.
Adam, can we just sit here until he comes up with a name? Greg Vaughn is the answer.
Vaughn, okay.
Greg Vaughn is the answer. All right. Well, that's it for the game today.
I'm blanking.
It's okay. It's hard. I mean, it's not an easy game, especially for the callers. You get put on the spot. You don't want to look dumb, and so you just don't say a name, which ends up making you look like you.
Man, one caller.
Don't know. I know. Should we just go let's do one more for fun, Adam? I mean, we already gave the prize away, so we'll go to David in La Jolla. I know Adam's giving me this look like, why are we doing this? But it was only one caller. I want to do another one. David, are you there?
I'm here.
All right. Let's go to question number 1.
Oh, I'm a first-time player, so I can go to 2.
Save that for your next time because you're not actually playing for anything.
Ah, okay.
Which golfer is known as Lefty?
Phil Nicholson, sorry.
Yes, Mickelson is correct. Second question. It's going to be another golf question. Who won the last U.S. Open at Torrey Pines?
Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods is incorrect. Sam, do you know who won the last U.S. Open at Torrey Pines?
Now golf?
I mean, this is the
I've
game.
never played around the golf in my life. U.S. Open at Torrey Pines. It wasn't Tiger Woods.
It was not.
Phil Mickelson. I don't know.
No, he's actually never won a U.S. Open. That's the only major he hasn't won.
Who knew?
John Rahm. All right, I'm sorry, David. We're just playing for fun, but just next time, tell us you were a first-time player. Next week, we have 2 days of this before Chris comes back and resumes his role as Chris versus the fans. Thank you, Sam, for
all
playing
right.
the
That was
game.
a failure
You're
of a Sammy versus the fans.
Isn't it kind of awkward?
I think I had a bad attitude coming in.
Maybe.
Very nonchalant.
Like you were going to just wreck everyone, and you didn't. You didn't. All right, let's go to break. When we get back, a very quick daily gambit. Tony will rejoin me for the Big Five around 4:40, so stick around for that. But like I said, when we get back, we have the daily gambit. What did my prop bet do last night? But first, your traffic report. Welcome back into Gwynn and Chris, 97.3 The Fan. Matt Skraby here, Adam Klug here, Sammy Love somewhere in the building here. And he's going to come back and join me at 5 p.m. before his pregame show, Eco Water SoCal Padres pregame show, starting at 5:40. We do have a Padres lineup, and it looks very similar to what we've seen the last couple days. But it's Luis Arraez, he's playing first base. Fernando Tatis Jr., right field. Jurickson Profar, left field. Manny Machado, third base. Jackson Merrill, center field. Xander Bogart, shortstop. Jake Cronenworth, second base. Peralta, DHing, and Higashioka catching for Yu Darvish. So pretty standard lineup. Now, if you missed Mike Shildt a little bit earlier, we asked him about Ha-Seong Kim. We're going to be playing that again at 5:20 because he had some information about Ha-Seong Kim. I will just say it's not great information about Ha-Seong Kim. So more discussion about that on the way. But in this segment, we do need to get out some of our bets for the weekend.
Do you like money?
I think about money a lot.
Do you like money without doing anything?
Winning.
Do you want to make money while watching sports?
I think Washington is immortal luck.
Washington! Woohoo! If you answered yes, this is your segment. Just don't blame us when you lose.
Well, nothing is ever your fault.
It's your game. Take it.
Gwynn and Chris go through the top bets of the day in The Daily Gambit on 97.3 The Fan.
Daily Gambit is our daily sports betting segment here on Gwynn and Chris. Please, everybody, gamble responsibly. I just have a few things to talk about in the Daily Gambit. But Jeffrey says on the chat, Skraby, quote, "This is the last Sammy versus the fans ever." Immediately plays a bonus round. That's pretty funny, Jeffrey, because it's true. All right, let's see. Let's review the bet I made last night, which would be a 4-leg parlay on the game between the Cowboys and the Giants. And real quick, before we get into that, the 80% of the bets last night on the spread for the game were on the Cowboys, minus 5.5. Brandon Aubrey was kicking like a 52-yard field goal with less than a minute to go in the game. He pushes it right, which is his first missed 50-yard field goal of his entire career. It would have put the Cowboys up by 8, but it kept him at 5. So all of the people that took the Cowboys lost because of that missed field goal. So those are kind of the some of the things that I love about the gambling aspect, is watching something like that, because even though the game wasn't great, that part was awesome because I knew what the spread was. This hour is brought to you by AleSmith 394 Pale Ale. AleSmith 394 Pale Ale, the official rally pint of the playoff push. Catch all the San Diego baseball action this week at the AleSmith Tasting Room in Miramar. Enjoy specials on 394 and more while you cheer on your team with fellow fans. Don't miss the excitement. Now, last night's bet was a 4-leg parlay. First leg, CeeDee Lamb anytime touchdown scorer. He did score a touchdown. 70-plus yards receiving for Malik Neighbors of the Giants. He had way more than that. He had over 100 yards and 12 catches. He did leave the game late with a concussion, though. 80-plus CeeDee Lamb receiving yards last night. That happened as well. CeeDee Lamb was all over the place. Now, the only thing that didn't work out for me was probably the hardest leg of the bet going into it anyway, which would be Devin Singletary of the Giants, running back, being an anytime touchdown scorer. Giants scored no touchdowns last night. I even think the Giants looked like the better team last night. Cowboys ended up with the win, though, so everything happened in that except for Devin Singletary, and that's what betting is all about. All right, 2 quick bets for today, and that would be San Diego State at Central Michigan. And Central Michigan, a 1-point favorite in this game. So no one really knows who's going to win this one. The over-under is what got me, though, because it's over-under 50.5 points. And if you go look, 50.5 points. If you go and look at what the Aztecs have done this year, the first game they scored 45 points, but that was against Texas A&M Commerce, and that's D1 AA. The 2 games that they played against D1A teams, Oregon State and Cal, they've only scored 10 points combined in that one. Oregon State, 21-0 loss. Cal, 31-10 loss. So in both of those games, they went under, even though they had a hard time scoring. So I am recommending, if you are of a person who likes to bet, I am recommending to go not over, under, because I have to see the Aztecs score against a college football defense that's not D1 AA. So I don't know that they can do that. Can these two teams combine for over 50 points? It's unlikely to me, so I'm going to go under on that one. I'm not even going to do it on the spread. The other one, because Adam's in here, Georgia and Alabama. Now, the first time since like 2007 that Alabama is at home and they are an underdog in the game. Georgia -1, so another very up-in-the-air game. Adam, what are your thoughts about this game, realistically? Because I know you're going to say Georgia's going to win, but what are your thoughts?
I don't know that Georgia's going to win. I'm very nervous about this game.
And for everybody tuning in for the first time, Adam is a Georgia alum. You're very nervous
Georgia struggled in their last game against Kentucky. They won by 1 point, and their starting quarterback injured his shoulder. I believe it's on his non-throwing arm, so less of a concern in his throwing arm. He says he'll play, but Georgia and Alabama has a history of going against Georgia. They did beat them for their first. Georgia did win over Alabama for the first national title a couple years ago, but in plenty of other in the other national title game in 2016, and plenty of SEC championship games and other big regular season games, Alabama's kind of owned this series. So, no, I'm not feeling very confident at all.
Well, I guess if I'm going to go with someone, it's going to be the underdog at home in Alabama, just because they have the +1.
Hard not to take Alabama as a home underdog in a betting scenario.
It just never happens. I'm going to go with Alabama. You've convinced me. I think Georgia actually does win the game because I think Georgia's the better team, and I think Kalen DeBoer is still trying to figure out his footing there with the Alabama football team. Georgia is a powerhouse, and they've been just... What?
Did you say you're going to take Georgia to win the game, but you're going to bet on Bama? It's a 1-point spread. So I don't think both of those things can really happen.
You're right.
Just
see, math is not my best thing. All right, I'm taking Georgia. Adam just mathed me. I'm going to take Georgia in that one. And that's really the biggest game of the weekend for college football, so that's all we got on that one. All right, that was the Daily Gambit. We'll get back into more regular Daily Gambiting when Chris gets back, because he's usually in charge of all those bets, so he will be the one doing that. He gets back on Wednesday. Tony will rejoin me here in just a little bit. I saw in the chat, though, from JH619 that the Blue Angels flying over the freeway during rush hour traffic equals SMH. And the reason? Because everybody's videoing it while driving. Now, I think the air show, as a nerdy aviation geek, I love the air show. I went to every air show as a kid. I've been to a lot of these Miramar air shows. Love the Blue Angels. And I love being on the freeway and seeing all this. Adam, are you a air show guy? I don't know.
I have never been, but I distinctly remember driving on the highway this time last year and seeing them flying over while I was driving down the highway.
It's cool. I mean, when we were, I guess during Annie and Elston, they were flying around doing their show, and something shook the building because that's how close they were flying to our building.
I definitely think it's something my kids would enjoy if I were.
Oh, your son would love it. He would love it. Like when I was little, the B-1 bomber would come over and just at full afterburner. It's great.
I don't know the details. Is it just one show, or is it like each day this weekend or something?
No, they have each day this weekend. I think they may even have 2 shows. I've never been to the night show, and I haven't even checked this, but when the night show was out, it was like they would do this whole sort of demonstration of like invading, and so they would bring in the Ospreys, and they would have the guys fall down the lines, and then they would have the Harriers come by, and they'd have pyrotechnics on the runway go off like they were doing a bombing run or something like that. I think your son would definitely like it. And if you want to go like walk around and see the planes too, they have a ton of planes out there. You can walk through like a C-130. You could walk through some of those other bigger planes, and then you can even sit in some of them too, which whenever you see the F-18s flying around, they look kind of small, and then you get next to them, and they are massive.
Gotta be honest with you, this is a pretty major sports weekend for me. I will be watching a ton of sports.
Oh, me too.
There's no time for me to go out and see the air show this weekend.
Yeah, the air show is usually in this time of the year, so
Even
it is kind of different. What's that?
I said I couldn't even get out at night with the young kids, but we got Padres, Diamondbacks, huge series. I got Georgia, Alabama. I got Falcons, Saints, and a whole day of NFL. That's just not happening for me.
Hey, I don't blame you. That's a lot of good stuff there. So, air show. But if you're on the freeway, please don't be videoing things while the planes are flying over you. It's just not good. It's just not good. It just hurts everyone. And then you're going to end up on Kelly Danick's traffic report. And no one wants to end up on Kelly Danick's traffic report because she will roast you. She will cook you, as we've been saying as of late. All right. Tony will rejoin me when we get back, and we're going to be doing the Big Five. The Big Five has a question about the rookie initiation the Padres players had to do last night. And Tony has an interesting perspective because he's actually done the rookie initiation. So that is what we are going to do, the Big Five rookie initiation, when we get back on 97.3 The Fan. here on a Friday afternoon. Matt Skraby with you. 97.3 The Fan, Gwynn and Chris. Tony is going to be joining me here for the Big Five. Chris Ello on vacation. You just heard Jim Rome talking about the White Sox playing against the Tigers as they're trying to make a playoff spot. And so they moved Garrett Crochet's start to today because Grady Sizemore, is it Grady Sizemore? That feels like that's an actor, but I'm not. I got to go look at his name. Anyway, we're going to move forward on that because I got to keep focus. But they moved the start of Garrett Crochet to today so that they could compete against their rival. And right now it's working out for the White Sox, I guess, because Garrett Crochet held the Tigers to no runs. Ended the fourth inning 0-0. The White Sox are trying to win out. They got swept by the Padres here in San Diego, and they had 1 week left. They're trying to win out so that they do not have 121 losses, which would make them the team in history that has the most losses. Right now they are tied for the most losses in history with the Mets from the 1960s. But if they lose one game, they are going to be the number one losing team in all of baseball history, which is kind of insane. It really is. That's a lot of losing. I can't even imagine. Can't even imagine. All right, we have the Big Five, and before the Big Five, we have your traffic report. So Tony rejoins me now.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by SDG&E. Well, crash is cleared on northbound 163 near Kearneyville Road, but now south 163 before Genesee. We have reports of a stalled vehicle in middle lanes. Also going to find crash on eastbound King Freeway before the 805. Those vehicles are over to the right shoulder. And stalled vehicle reported on eastbound 905 just before Siempre Viva. That car is in the center divide. In peak wildfire season, as a last resort, SDG&E may need to shut off power in specific areas for public safety. To learn more about public safety power shutoffs at sdge.com/PSPS. I'm Kelly Danick with Gwynn and Chris, San Diego's #1 sports station. 97.3 The Fan.
It's that time of the show when we check on the latest in sports. Only the most important topics and questions are brought to light.
Stop what you're doing and listen.
These news stories will astound and amaze you. The one, the only.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
The Big Five starts now on 97.3 The Fan.
To close out the week, our Big Five topic for the Padres, the number 5 spot, is going to
number 5
talk about the rookie initiation last night. If you didn't know, the Padres rookies had to do that initiation, which meant having them wear Friar costumes all the way from LA to Arizona. Now, these traditions have changed over the years, and they used to be more hardcore, but now are pretty tame. Tony, first, did you have to do anything? And second, do you think these rookies are getting off easy?
Hell yeah, they're getting off easy. Weak sauce. Listen, it used to be bad it used to be much more crazy if you were, if you weren't a good rookie. And I don't mean by your play. I just mean by how you conduct yourself.
Gotcha.
The worse you were, the worse your outfit was. And, I was fortunate. I kind of had a head start because I kind of knew how I was supposed to act and conduct myself. And so I got off pretty relatively. I think I had like Batman one time.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, I had it pretty easy. But I had some teammates who didn't have it as easy. That's for sure. But yeah, no, they're definitely getting off light. I mean, this major leaguer, today's major league is much nicer guy than the major leaguers I came in with.
I honestly can't imagine what it was like in the 70s, 80s.
Well, no, it wasn't that bad in the 70s because, I think Mud was telling the story yesterday that, what they did was there was a famous shoe store in Atlanta called Freeman's that everybody used to go to, and they had all kinds of shoes. So basically, he said their initiation was they basically came back from the game and their shoes were gone. And they had bought them platforms and they wrote provocative words like sex on there, things of that nature. So, you know, it was a lot. I think 70s was probably 80s. It probably started 90s. It definitely got wild.
Yeah.
And then like 2000s, it was probably still at that level. And then, you know, then we kind of had a change in societal norms, and then that kind of
That's a good description. Change in societal norms. I can't even imagine having Jose Canseco looking at me, telling me I needed to do something, and I didn't want to do it.
Yeah, it was. They were different. They were both different.
Do I think they're getting off easy? Yeah, because I want to see some crazy stuff. I mean, I don't necessarily think that they need to be paying bills or they need to be, you know, doing bad things, but I want to see them, you know, carry that backpack all year round from the dugout to the bullpen, where it's just like a unicorn backpack or something like that. I think those things are funny and acceptable.
That's crazy because, you know, you bring up a good point, right? I mean, this is just dressing, and so I guess, yeah, it could humiliate you from a mental standpoint, but man, those football players, they get left with like five-figure bills,
like $60,000 dinner bills.
I think my mental could be upset for a little bit, and I get over it after a while. That 5 racks or that 15 or that 5-figure meal, I don't know, that takes a while. It hurts.
Yeah, yes, it does. I can't remember who it was, but one veteran like filled a rookie's car with like those packing peanuts,
the popcorn,
or the popcorn. Yeah. That stuff is fun.
I think that's an NBA thing. Like, if you're not a good, I think I think it was Jeff Teague was telling the story that, you know, he was popping off, and they kept telling him like, hey man, and sure enough, walked out there, had one of his nice new cars, popcorn, all in that bad boy. That stuff is hard to get out.
Yeah, and the worst part is, like, you can't drive home. Like, you've got a bunch of popcorn in your car. I guess it would be nice to have snacks on the way home, but, like, you literally can't drive. It's brutal.
It's not, for the record, it's not actual popcorn.
It's the packing peanuts, right?
Yeah. Packing peanuts, yeah. So,
still,
what snacks are you talking about?
Well, yeah, then I started thinking popcorn, and I was like, it would be nice to just turn to my passenger seat and grab some popcorn and eat some on the way home. But you're right. Those are styrofoam
not
peanuts.
edible. Yeah, not edible.
Man, I would have died unless Tony Gwynn Jr. told me not to eat the popcorn.
Number 4.
Now, Caitlin Clark addressed the abuse that her fellow WNBA players have experienced from fans in games against the Indiana Fever this year. And speaking to reporters today, she described the people making any racist and derogatory comments as quote-unquote trolls, and no one in the league should be subject to any type of verbal abuse. She also added, quote, those aren't fans, in reference to the trolls. So I'm up first. Are trolls fans? This question was made for me. No, trolls are not fans, because trolls are only there for one thing, and it's to make other people miserable because they are miserable. So if someone says something nice online about the Padres, they have to go say something mean to make themselves feel better. Trolls are not fans, trolls are trolls. And the reason they're trolls is because they live under a bridge and they do not care about anybody else's feelings. I just cannot stand trolls, and I'll stop there, Tony.
What's the question?
Are trolls fans?
Some trolls are fans, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
I think some trolls are just trolls. I would probably say a lot of those people are trolls, though, not actual fans of the WNBA.
Yeah, in this regard, I think you're probably right here. These are actually people that are hateful.
I think you know, we're such a crazy place we live in now that I bet you people tune in just so that they can have fodder or material to troll.
Yeah,
that's where we're at. Like, that's what people do now. So I agree. I think a lot of these people are trolls. Nobody. I mean, here's the thing. They garnered a bunch of new fans, bunch of new eyes.
Yeah.
This year. A lot of new fans, but some of those eyes that came in are trolls, right? They just want to cause chaos. So, you know, it's as that weeds itself out and that gets old after a while, right? As it will eventually do, they still will have that segment of fans they brought in. So at the end, it's worth it for the game, right? I mean, they're gonna get more fans as they go along, but the tough part is you're going to bring in some folks that ain't fans that are just going to do this type of crap.
Yeah, throughout my radio career, people with much bigger names in radio have told me if you're getting trolled more, that means you're getting more successful, which is so backwards to me, but I totally understand it because you're getting more people looking at you. And that's what you just said about the WNBA. More fans than ever, and some of those people are trolls.
Yeah.
Number 3.
There were a lot of penalties in the first half of Thursday Night Football last night, and how many penalties in the total game? Well, there were 11 or 15 penalties in the game, and 11 of those were on the Cowboys. Far too many penalties for Prime Video play-by-play announcer Al Michaels. As the flags flew in the first half, Michaels became clearly irritated. Then he said, and then he channeled some of that irritation into one-liners. He said, quote, "It looks like June 14th here, otherwise known as Flag Day, as you know," end quote. He noted that in the first half. But, some people say that Al Michaels is too negative during the broadcast. He's too get off my lawn. Tony, do you think he is unprofessional?
To be fair, I haven't really listened to Al, so I don't know.
Okay.
But I will say that I could see how someone, this isn't the first type of deal we've had to read about Al.
No, he talked last year about how bad the games were during the game.
And so if you get somebody that doesn't seem like they're happy to do it, and that's the thing about broadcasting, and I feel crazy saying this in general because it's Al Michaels and he's a legend in this, but when you listen to a game, you want to feel like the guys who are talking about it are enjoying it and want to be there. And I would guess if I were listening and I were listening every week that might get old after a while if I didn't feel like these guys actually want to be there, or that they're enjoying, or this person is enjoying what it is they're doing. I can see how that would get old, but I can't honestly give you an opinion on whether I think he's too negative or not. I just know this is like the third or fourth time we've had one of these subjects pop up, and he's been in the middle of it. And I could see how if I was a listener listening every Thursday, I would get a little annoyed by that.
Yeah, when you put it like that, listening every single Thursday and he's just crushing the teams and all that all the time, then that would be annoying. But in reference to last night, I was even being like, man, another penalty? Are you kidding me? It was like play, penalty, play, penalty. And
that's not to say that every time he's said something that he wasn't completely right. I mean, he was right about the games. He was right about these flags. So it's not like he's wrong, but I do want the broadcaster to feel like man, he's enjoying this, because then I'll enjoy it.
Yeah, that's true. I like Al Michaels. I think that
I do too. That's why I said I haven't listened to him, so
he speaks for the people at some times, and I like that. And then you got Kirk Herbstreit, who's like Mr. Positive. So you got two guys that are perfect for each other in that booth.
Number 2.
The President's Cup is happening right now, and if you don't know,
Ooh.
What?
I saw some of this.
Oh. If you don't know about the President's Cup, which I think many of you don't, this is the golf tournament which features the USA versus the rest of the world. And the Ryder Cup is actually more popular, but there have been ideas as to how to spice up the President's Cup. And one of those suggestions is to make this a mixed event. The best men in the world and the best women in the world, except for Europeans, because that is the Ryder Cup. So I'm up first. Would that help get eyes on the event? I do think it would help get eyes on the event, because women's golf and women's sports in general is up across the board, and more golf fans are learning about the LPGA Tour and the stars on the LPGA Tour. So if you had, say, Bryson or Scotty Scheffler, let's use Scotty Scheffler and Nelly Korda teamed up in an event against the best men and women from around the world, I do think that would help spice it up, and I actually want this to happen. I think it's a good idea. The President's Cup is whatever, because the Ryder Cup is really what people watch. So I think this would be a good idea. Tony?
Why is the Ryder Cup what people watch?
It's the oldest, and it's it goes all the way.
Is that the only reason? Because it's the oldest one?
It's the most competitive. I mean, it's just the President's Cup is much newer, so it's not. It's
so what's the difference?
The Ryder Cup is the Americans versus the Europeans, and the President's Cup is the Americans versus the world minus Europeans. So basically, they made it so other golfers around the world can do it.
Yeah, no, I'm sure any new ideas can help. So certainly, going with the adding the women to it, I think certainly can help. But what also can help is a little bit of what happened yesterday. My man Scheffler was talking crazy.
Yes, he was.
To Kim. And that kind of stuff will bring eyeballs. Like Kim was popping off. He must have said something. And then my man Scheffler hit a putt from a little bit of distance and basically was giving him the business back. That kind of interaction can get people to start watching a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's as opposed to, taking your shot, taking your next shot, putting it in a hole, waving.
Quiet clapping.
Yeah, no, we gotta get some energy in there.
Yeah, he said that Tom Kim poked the bear. Which,
yeah, he poked
why
the bear.
poke Scotty Scheffler of all people?
Yeah.
You don't want to poke that guy. He's the best in the world right now. I remember a few years ago when Rory and Patrick Reed were playing against each other in the Ryder Cup, and they kept sinking these incredibly long putts to one-up each other, and it got to the point where both of them were just screaming at each other, and it was great. So you're right. Any sort of news helps, and any sort of competition like that helps. All right, last one.
Number 1.
A downtown staple and destination for many Padres fans did something that may anger some people. A tweet went up yesterday, and it showed Bubs at the ballpark putting it with a banner around the outside of it showing the Los Angeles Chargers schedule and logo. As you can imagine, this is kind of controversial. So, Tony, do you have an issue with them putting up this banner?
Bubs at the ballpark?
Yes.
Putting a Chargers banner up?
Outside, yes.
No. Why would I have a problem with that?
I don't know.
No, I don't have a problem with it at all. I mean, I know other people. I like the Chargers. We talked about this the other day.
Yep.
So why would I have a problem? I know the people who don't like the Chargers probably will have a problem with it. And guess what? They are out of luck too, because I believe that is their business, and they get to kind of put up whatever signs they want. Now, if you decide, man, I'm not going to go get none of their wings because they got this Charger sign up, that's on you too.
Mm-hmm.
You have the right to make whatever decision you choose, but it doesn't bother me, and I bet they're going to do all right still.
You're probably right. They're going to do all right. It does slightly bother me because
the fact that it's on here means it kind of bothers you.
You know me way too well. You know that this is my outlet right here, and I'm using it in the form of a topic.
Have at it, baby.
I just think when you have put yourself as the place where Padres fans go, I think you gotta wait till the season's over before you put up the Charger banner.
Okay, wait. Is the issue that the Padre fans aren't going to go? What is
the issue? Is that Bubs is a San Diego Padres bar to me. That's where Padres fans go.
Has it always been that way? I'm not familiar. You got.
I can't tell you. I haven't drank in a long time, but I'm sure that when the Chargers were here, Bubs was playing Chargers games. But then they took years off of promoting this because it was.
They were salty too. Maybe maybe their feelings aren't as hurt anymore, or maybe they say, you know what, I'm moving on. Or they say, you know what, there's probably a segment of folks out there that like the Chargers, and we can get them into our restaurant.
All of those are correct, and I think at some point, yes, everyone just needs to move on. I'm not saying fans
You're not
need
there
to move
yet,
on.
though.
Businesses need to move on. No, I'm fine with them putting this up after the baseball season.
That's their only gripe, is it?
Goes to a Bubs at the ballpark during Wild Card Weekend or Wild Card Week and sits next to a Chargers banner. That seems so bad to me.
Wait, the banners are inside the restaurant too, like everywhere? So you got to sit next to the banner too?
When you're outside, you can sit next to the banner.
This is nuts, dude.
It's not nuts. I don't think.
Maybe they should wait until after Padres season.
But the other thing is,
even though there's football games going right now, they should probably wait until after.
The other thing is, it's their business. So who knows? Maybe they need this up because their business isn't doing as well right now. I mean, businesses are down across the country. I don't know this to be true or anything like that, but that could be a reason for it. And if it's in regards to survival, then what do I care? I mean, I'm not running the business. But in regards to how it looks, I'm a little unsettled by it, Tony. A little unsettled.
Sorry, man. I shouldn't have said it.
All right, that's it for the Big Five. When we get back, we're going to have Mike Shildt in at 5:20, and then I'm going to set up what's going to happen this weekend with the Padres and the Diamondbacks on 97.3 The Fan.
It's time for baseball in America's finest city, and no one can talk more about baseball or the San Diego Padres quite like us on Annie and Elston. Annie and Elston, weekdays from 10 to 2, right here on 97.3 The Fan.
Indiana looks to stay hot. I'm Joe Ostrowski here to help you beat the books with BetQL. Unbeaten Indiana hosts Maryland as a touchdown favorite this weekend. The BetQL model is expecting points and looking at the total as the play. BetQL has over 52 as a 4-star best bet. I'm Joe Ostrowski. Bet smarter and beat the books. Download the BetQL and BetMGM apps today.
Hey Chargers fans, Paramount Plus is your home to stream the NFL on CBS every Sunday. Catch Justin Herbert in action and stream your live local NFL on CBS game all the way through the AFC Championship. Sign up and sign in to Paramount Plus today.
You are never too old for a family.
And thank you very much, Miss Piggy. That fearless producer is myself, and also serving as the host today for Gwynn and Chris, 97.3 The Fan. I'm Matt Skraby. Chris Ello back next week. Tony Gwynn Jr. off to get prepared for the game tonight between the Padres and the Arizona Diamondbacks out there at Chase Field. And this is a huge series this weekend. We're going to hear from Mike Shildt in about 15 minutes. He was on earlier in the show, and we got some a news update on Ha-Seong Kim and whether or not he's going to come back. And let's just say it's not a great update. So 5:20, we'll hear from Mike Shildt. He'll give us some more explanation on that. But really, the playoff situation for the Padres is pretty simple. Here's go to Adam Klug's Twitter if you want to read this, but it's at Adam__ Klug, and he tweeted the Padres magic number is 2, and it's a combination of Padres wins and Mets losses. So the Padres can clinch the top wild card spot with 2 wins against Arizona, one win against Arizona plus 1 Mets loss. So with 3 games to go in the season, the Padres basically have to win 2 games. I think that's it's doable. The Mets have been, I can't count on the Mets to lose because the Mets have been very good down the stretch this season. I cannot ever count on them to lose. So I'm going to take matters into my own hands as the Padres, and I'm going to try to win these 3 games in Arizona. And, if they don't win those games, I think there's kind of a feeling out there, and I'm including myself in this. I think there's a feeling that we've already secured the wild card series at home, which is not true. There is still a couple things that need to shake out. The ones that I just said, 2 wins against Arizona or 1 win against Arizona and 1 Mets loss. But I said it earlier, if the Padres are going to host a wild card series here in San Diego, that is best case scenario for, I think, any of those teams in the playoffs. The Padres have one of the best home field advantages in baseball. Players come here all the time and say that this is one of the craziest places to play because it will be a Tuesday night, or let's take last Friday night against the White Sox, one of the worst teams in baseball history. That place was packed. There was over 45,000 people there. And so there's no question as to how important it is for the Padres to play at home. But they can take care of it on their own. They have to take care of it on their own. And if they don't take care of it on their own, I guess I'll be angry. I'll be angry. They'll still possibly be in the playoffs, but I mean they are in the playoffs. Duh, they've already clinched. But they got to get that home series. They really do. We also talked a little bit earlier about the rotation for the playoffs and how it kind of shakes out. Saris was on Ben and Woods yesterday, and he said that he thinks Dylan Cease is their best pitcher for the rotation to start game 1, and I kind of agree. Also kind of said, if there is a guy who's going to come out of the bullpen first, it probably will be Michael King in my mind, because Michael King is a guy who can eat some innings and he can put up zeros, and that's exactly what you need in the playoffs. And he has bullpen experience. So I'm comfortable with Michael King coming out of the bullpen, and I'm comfortable with a scenario where they do kind of like a piggyback. And I've heard on the roundtable as well yesterday, Martin Perez, he's not going to be one of the 3 in the rotation, but he could be a guy in the bullpen. This is a guy who won the World Series last year. He has World Series experience. I think that's very important. I mean, these guys some of them are playing in their first playoff games ever, and that's not the most comfortable situation for someone. They love doing it, but I'm sure a lot of those guys are nervous. Tony has said many times before, the playoff games that he played, he said he couldn't even feel his legs walking up to home plate. He said they felt like jelly because he was nervous, he was excited, it was pressure packed. It was what these guys play for. And I do think that guys with World Series experience, playoff experience, like Martin Perez and Xander Bogaerts will be huge in the result of this season. Xander Bogaerts won a World Series with the Boston Red Sox. I mean, Xander Bogaerts has played in many playoff games. If we're looking at Dylan Cease, Dylan Cease has only pitched in 2 playoff games. I'm not saying that's going to stop him from being great in the playoffs, but if we're talking about experience, Dylan Cease has 2 games experience. That's not a lot of experience in the playoffs, but everybody has to start at least some point in time, and so Dylan Cease is going to be that guy. Well, it's not announced. In my mind, Dylan Cease is going to be that guy. It could go Yu Darvish. It could go Joe Musgrove. It could go Cease, Musgrove, Darvish, or it could go Cease, Darvish, Musgrove, or it could even go, who knows, Cease, King, Musgrove. I doubt that will happen because, Yu Darvish is pitching pretty well right now, and Yu Darvish is a good pitcher for the playoffs, as we saw in 2022. So lots of questions still to be answered for the Padres here in the last 3 games of the season. And we are, you know what? Let me bring in our guy, Sammy Lev. Sammy Lev is in here in studio with me. And Sam, what are your thoughts on the rotation? Oh, sorry. Are you ready to go? I just kind of brought him in without him being ready to go.
I have my big headphones on, and I was editing Mike Shildt's pregame.
My bad.
No, so I heard Sam.
And you're like, whoa, that's me.
I'm not on video, too. I'm sorry.
It's fine. Don't worry.
Okay.
You're still preparing. I kind of took you by surprise.
It's fine. What was the question?
Dylan Cease, you think he's the game one guy? I'm not walking you into it.
Do I think Dylan Cease is the game one guy? So let's jog my memory here. So yesterday was Musgrove.
Yes.
Cease was Wednesday. King was Tuesday.
So that gives King a week. Or unless he starts this weekend.
I would say this for sure. Let's say Michael King has to pitch on Sunday. If that game matters and the Padres want to use him on Sunday, then they would, I suppose, have the option to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, start Musgrove on Tuesday. He'd be on 4 days rest. I would say there's a pretty good chance because it wouldn't be King. It wouldn't be Darvish, who would be on 3 days rest. So you're looking at either Joe or Cease. Look, I like Dylan because he's got the ability to be so dominant in a game one. So, yeah, I think there's a pretty good shot. But, I love the way Joe is pitching right now. He threw, obviously 6 shutout innings yesterday and was really, really good. Made, a couple of mistakes. Walked Muncy to begin the 7th inning, and then Smith the home run. And look, it cost him, but he's been so good. Really, he's made that mistake, and he had that weird inning against the Giants. And aside from that, he's been awesome. So I think there's a pretty good shot it would be Cease. But I also think it's going to depend on, how they want to line it up and what the final game or two of this series means, right? There's a lot at play here in the final 2 games of this series, and especially if Michael King doesn't pitch Sunday because the game just doesn't mean anything for the Padres. Yeah. So we'll see. But it's a good question, but I would have no issue at all if the Padres decided game 1 belongs to Cease.
Do you think kind of, and I guess I'm going to put myself in this category, but do you think these last 3 games were overlooking a little bit? And you actually, talking in the break, made me realize that I do need to pay attention to these 3 games, obviously, because they're huge for this team. Do you think that maybe we're looking too far ahead as fans and broadcasters?
I don't think we're looking too far ahead. Look, reality is they've clinched a postseason spot, which is huge. Okay, you want to be in the postseason whether you're playing the wild card series at home or on the road. I think that hosting the wild card series and taking care of business here tonight, because they could clinch that home wild card series with a win tonight and the Mets losing in Milwaukee. And just quite frankly, if they win tonight, it makes it even more likely that they're here at home on Tuesday. It gives them 2 things. Number one, it obviously guarantees playing the series at home, which I think Petco Park has become an environment where that's important. And also it allows you to not worry about maybe Saturday and or Sunday. And allows you to rest some guys, allows you to get a Luis Arraez off his feet for a few days. He's really struggled as of late, and you wonder if the knee's bothering him, if the hand is bothering him. Again, you have to wonder that because we just don't see him go 2 for 28. And it allows you to line up your pitching the way you want, and it means Michael King doesn't have to pitch on Sunday. There are some pretty big implications to taking care of business, winning tonight, quite frankly, and maybe even clinching that home series tonight, or at least putting yourself in a position where you get really, really close to clinching the series here at home. So I don't think we're overlooking it. I don't think they're as important as they would be if they were battling for their postseason lives.
Yeah, for sure.
But if I'm the Padres and I'm in that clubhouse, I want to play this series at home beginning on Tuesday, and I want to get it done as quickly as possible so you can line things up the way you need to line them up.
Yeah, the Brewers and the Mets just started 3 minutes ago, 5:10. So the Padres will know the result at some point throughout their game. So they're going to know whether or not they can get that home field advantage.
I mean, look, tonight, it doesn't really matter what the Mets do. It does matter.
Yeah.
But Padres need to win tonight to even clinch that spot. They would need a win and a Mets loss. And look, as we know, 2 wins for the Padres this weekend, it clinches the spot regardless. So they have control of what that number 1 seed in the wild card will be, the number 4 seed technically in the postseason, but the number 1 wild card spot. So yeah, I mean, they're important. I view these as big games. I think the Padres, I think they want to host that series at home, and I think it would be in their best interest to get it wrapped up as quickly as possible. I do.
Thank you very much, Sam. What's going on your pregame show today?
We'll hear from Mike Shildt on a number of different topics. I know you talked to him about Ha-Seong Kim earlier. He spoke a little bit more about Kim in the pregame media availability, which our listeners have not heard. So we'll play some of that. And you're playing his interview again after the break, right?
Yes,
okay, so you're going to hear a bunch on Kim. So we'll hear from him on that and some more stuff. I talked with Jesse Friedman, Diamondbacks beat reporter for PHNX, does a really good job reporting, podcasting about the Diamondbacks. We've had him on the pregame coverage before. We talk about the Diamondbacks. Look, Arizona's had a great second half overall. It has not been as good the last couple of weeks, and as far as their pitching, it's been rough in some spots. So we talked to him about all of that and get a feel for what the D-backs have been in the second half and over the course of the last couple of weeks, and all our usual stuff, keys to the game. We'll catch up with Jesse in the pregame, and much, much more to come, beginning at 5:40 here on 97.3 The Fan.
On the dot.
On the dot. Better be on the dot.
I try to make it on the dot every time.
Nick Danucci is somewhere in this building. He will make sure it begins on the dot.
I don't see any hair just running around. If anybody's seen Nick on the YouTube channel, you know his hair is just crazy. I love Nick. He's a good guy.
Well, you can look at his feet. He'll have socks and flip-flops on.
And he'll probably have some sort of sushi roll with him.
He does. He brings a good amount of food.
When you work in sports...
But we're here for a long time. Like,
he's here for 6 hours or 5 hours.
You need food to keep.
It's just funny because we kind of know what Nick's gonna bring.
Oh, I know exactly.
It's gonna be a sushi roll.
He goes to the supermarket right here around the corner,
or a sandwich. But anyway, all right. Thank you so much, Sam.
All right.
You will be on at 5:40. When we get back, Mike Shildt will talk about Ha-Seong Kim and the future of him for this season. So stick around, and that'll come up after this traffic report.
From the night.
Welcome back into Gwynn and Chris. Man, the things that happen in the commercial breaks. I wish people could be in here for that because I learned so much stuff about people in the commercial break. It's insane. We have Mike Shildt from earlier today. Tony and I caught up with him. So here is the Padres manager talking about the playoff, the eve of the postseason, and also about Ha-Seong Kim.
Mike Shildt is our guest here on this Friday. The Manager's Report with Mike Shildt is brought to you by San Diego County Credit Union. It's not big banking. It's better. Mike, it was a long night last night. Obviously, the Padres weren't able to get the victory, and then they had to hop on the plane, fly here to Arizona, where they have 3 pretty important games remaining. On a night like this where travel is rough, what goes into, putting a lineup together today as you try to, get guys prepared for the postseason, but also these 3 games you have in front?
Yeah, Tony. Good talking to you guys. We'll run up pretty much the same lineup. I mean, we did get in later than typical, but we have a night game, and our guys are able to sleep in, and they're ready to go play. They all want to be in the lineup and get after it.
We're talking to Padres manager Mike Shildt here on 97.3 The Fan. Thanks so much for your time today. And you clinched on Tuesday. Guys have battled in the last 2 games, but there are still 3 games remaining in the regular season. So my question for you is, how do you avoid looking ahead to the decisions you have to make next week versus the decisions you have to make this weekend?
We take it day by day. We're clearly aware and getting prepared for next week, but we still have work to be done these next 3 games to, we'd really like to come in and be able to play in Petco to start the playoffs. So, that's still on the table, and we're looking to take it off the table and make it happen.
Mike, I want to take you back to the beginning of this season as you guys begin this journey. You were pretty adamant about, locking in on some of the smaller things. And I remember at a point during the season when a lot of us on the outside were talking about it being a roller coaster, and you kind of pushed back against that. What gave you the confidence, even as this team was teetering, back and forth between 500, that you knew that these guys would eventually get to the point that they're at now?
Great question. I'm glad you asked it. We'd like to snap our fingers and accelerate a lot of processes that need to be put into place and create some clarity and allow some learning curve with some players. I mean, if you look back at the off season, there was a lot of question marks. No particular order. You slash the payroll, $90 million. We lose over 600 quality innings, including the Cy Young guy and Blake, and a lockdown closer in Josh, and of course Waka and Lugo, and Nick Martinez and Luis Garcia, guys like that, and you lose a generational talent in Juan Soto. We got really confident. We had a great core, obviously, with Manny and Toddy and Bogey and Crony and you and that entire group. But plus you got a new manager. You got a new, you got a fair amount of new staff members, including Victor Rodriguez, our hitting coach, and people that were on the staff last year that were in different spots, a couple. So, and then you bring in new guys that have been great. Clearly, Michael King and all the group from the Yankees, Higgy and Vasquez Brito have contributed. Of course, we trade for Cease and Arise. Everybody knows kind of the story, but what I'm ultimately getting at, trying to paint the picture to a long answer to the question is, there's a lot of variables. There's a lot of newness taking place, and like I said, I wish we could just snap our fingers and go, yeah, it's going to be fine. But the thing that I had confidence in during all that, so expecting some kind of learning curve, or and quite candidly, being able to stay at a place where we remain competitive with Toddy being out for a long period of time, Bogey being out for over 2 months, both of them over 2 months, Joe and Darvish being out over 2 months apiece. I feel Manny coming back off of surgery, out of the core 6 group of guys, really only Crony was a guy that, was able to, be consistent and be healthy. So us holding it together with, a rookie in the outfield that never played outfield before has clearly rewarded it and did great in Jackson. So us being able to keep it right there, I thought was pretty darn good, and some ups and downs were, I just knew were going to take place. I mean, I think anybody that's been around the game, that's, at least for me, would be naive to think otherwise. But really it was just that day-to-day commitment from the group of guys, which what a special group, as we all know. The staff, we do our part, but just that dedication to continual improvement and continue to work together to put together what we know is how to play the game of baseball and how to compete every day, give us our best chance of winning.
We're talking to Padres manager Mike Shildt here on 97.3 The Fan. You just mentioned Yu Darvish being back, and with Yu Darvish being back, you have some pretty good options in terms of the possible 3-game wildcard series rotation. And I know you don't want to look ahead too much, but do you anticipate whoever does not make that wildcard rotation will be available from the bullpen?
I think we're a little early on the finalizing the roster. I think it's possible for sure. It's a fair question, but I don't have anything definitive for you right now.
Okay.
Mike Shildt joins us here on Gwynn and Chris. And Mike, let's talk a little bit about Jackson. You get this young kid, and I think you kind of knew. You kind of were able to see him prior to this year and how he conducted himself. And I remember a conversation with you last year talking about how advanced in terms of mentally he was with the game. So you get this new piece, and you run him out there, and he's doing well. How much did you have to resist moving him up too quickly and giving him too much too fast, where it could have maybe been a detriment to him?
Another great question. Yeah, I got a real blessing to get to know Jackson the last couple of years through instructional leagues and big league camp, and then going to watch him play a little bit in the minor leagues. And you really just getting to know him, and the talent's a talent. Clearly, it's pretty special, but it's the makeup, it's the mindset, it's the mental acumen to play the game. So we knew we were on having a really good kind of player. Him making that move to center field as easy as he made it is beyond impressive. For me, I'm biased a little bit, but I don't think it's really a question that he's rookie of the year. But then to ultimately answer your question, Tony, is me and Victor talked about it a fair amount. The good news is we've had a lengthy lineup. We got guys for a period of time. It didn't really, obviously at the beginning of the season, it made sense to hit him down the lineup and just let him get his at-bats and let him get his feet under it. And he started performing more. We did move him up a little bit, got him up just a hair and in that 6 range, and again had conversations with Vic about it, and we just felt like, we got other guys that are carrying the mail that have been doing this, and he's in a good spot. He's performing. He's doing what he needs to be doing, and then he kept doing it, and so looked up over in San Francisco, a couple of weeks ago, and said, this kid. He's been able to pretty much handle everything we put in front of him. So I think we put it in front of him appropriately. And then we slid him up to the 5th spot, and he's doing what he's done. He's been able to take good at-bats and perform.
We're talking to Padres manager Mike Shildt here, 97.3. And what is the status of Ha-Seong Kim and when he could potentially rejoin the team? Yeah,
you know what? I wish you had really super positive news. He's just hadn't been able to be able to get over that hump with his throwing. The hitting's not a problem. That part's good, but him being able to consistently throw with any aggressive, anything behind it, and intensity is just hadn't happened. So, we're still weighing what's taking place, but right now he's not in a spot where we can count on him in the very near future.
Mike, is there a point where it's too late and that window closes?
There is,
Okay.
Steve. We may be getting there, and we'll know something here, sooner than later.
last one before we let you get out of here. I got to ask you. You mentioned Victor Rodriguez. You guys is the Padres hitting coach. This offense is it has multi facets to it. Was this the plan all along to have an offense that, you know, can beat you in multiple ways, or did this kind of come about as, you know, everybody kind of found their footing and it's kind of blossomed into this?
Combination, really. I've known Victor a long time. We're very like-minded in how we see the game, how we want to play the game and compete offensively. We both have always been believers in a very holistic offense, which to me makes common sense. We've had conversations to you about it. You know, there's a lot of different ways to compete in this game, and having many tools in your toolbox to be able to do it because it's so situational based, and having the guys that can handle the bat. But our game's changed, and you don't have as many guys handle the bat. So the second part of that's really been the biggest part, because we can have all the philosophy we want, and we can, you know, think about how we want to compete and play the game. But if you don't have players that can execute that, it's just it's a lofty ideal that doesn't come to fruition. But and I give AJ credit for this, and all our players. I mean, you know, look, you go down the line, but AJ bringing a Rise in, Solano in, Peralta in, these are professional hitters that play the game, have bat control. But also give credit to, you know, Manny Profar has led the way for sure. Manny's been tremendous. We've all seen him move runners, seen him hit the ball the other way. Toddy, you know, walk-off hit the other day in the right center. It's not you always have to hit the ball the other way, as you know, but if the game calls for it, that's what you do. And the little things can lead to big things, and we've had some big things happen for sure as well. So, you know, it's been a combination between, you know, a belief system that we wanted to create, and Victor's done a great job of creating a clear identity with the group, and then the guys buying into it and having the ability to execute it.
Well, it's been a lot of fun to watch this year. 3 games remaining. Division still, you know, a chance to be able to capture it. You need some help, but you know you have the city of San Diego behind you. Mike, appreciate you coming on here this morning after the long night, and good luck tonight.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Well, my math skills have failed me once again, and I have about 10 seconds to log out of here, everybody. Thank you for listening this week. Sam Levitt up next with your Eco Water SoCal Padres pregame show on 97.3 The Fan. Go Padres!
Aaron Clapton. October